Felicitations, my family of fledglings and ghosts. So good to see you. Hello and welcome. I'm Damien Hallmay, your destroyer of the status quo, disruptor, provocateur. Maybe not the last one. I don't do it just to get a rise out of people. I do this to reprogram your mind so that you'll critically think about the reality that happens around you and stop falling into somebody else's ideology and parroting their talking points. Tonight is another discourse night. We'll be discussing a spicier than I have been topic. I feel like I've been playing it safe since I've started discourse nights and really been cautious to do some things that are lightweight. What's the most impactful movie you've ever seen? How did it change your life? What are some things you think you do better than your parents? Stuff like that. This is kind of poppy, kind of, dare I say, like BuzzFeed top list sort of stuff. Or like ChatGPT generated kind of content. Which I didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to go down darker paths and quickly. Some of which I'm a little concerned to start or to try right off the deep end. I'm sure everybody has big opinions about some of the deeper things happening in the world today, and I do want to get into those things. But I think we want to go in to the pool by stepping in via the stairs, which, you know, it's a lot colder and harder to do that way. But when you plunge deep into the waters, sometimes I've got this. There's no good analogy for this. Hollywood superstar Shia LaBeouf. Our fearless leader, thank you so much for the lurk. Please enjoy. We'll see you when you return. Let's just kill the pool analogy. It's a really bad analogy. Let's kill it before it starts. What I would like to discuss tonight, our topic for this evening, is the idea of words slowly being redefined. Some are to help age-old problems where some word or some term had been used and it's always been sort of a negative thing, and we're trying to either turn it positive or replace it with a different word. Some are to get a new grasp on an explanation of something, or to try to define something better that we didn't really have a good word for. So we use an existing word in a new way and leave behind either a vacuum or some other word that sort of meant the same thing to replace it. We'll talk about all those things tonight. I have a bit of housekeeping to tell you. Housekeeping number one, I talked with a guy who's working on Backdrop, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to go into the... It was supposed to be ready like at the beginning of this year. It just didn't happen. he's a working professional. I'm a working professional. What can I say? It's really hard to get going. But the works are they're moving. They're moving. So having backdrop for the sanctuary is within my sights, and I look forward to showcasing to you all the things that we've come together with, me and the artist. I hope it'll be really exciting change for you all. So yeah, that's going to be big. I'm leaving early tonight. I usually stream for 4 hours, and I cannot stream for 4 hours tonight. I will stream for probably something in the neighborhood of 3 3/4 hours. So we're only really going to miss like maybe the last 15, maybe 20 minutes at the very end. But I do have to dash out. My sister is going on a trip and needs a ride to the airport. And I happen to have that very special schedule to which the sleep part of my night hasn't quite yet begun. And so I can make the drive all the way over to her place and then make the drive all the way over to the airport, make the drive all the way back here, and maybe sleep a little bit before I have to interact with the greater world the next day. We'll see. We'll see how that do. Just warning you, I might peace out just a little bit earlier than usual. And last bit is that I'm sick. I know I don't sound sick. This is not a okay, half my nose is like kind of screwy right now, but the it's not like a nose sick or a cough sick yet. Hello, Tra. Welcome to your street. Oh, I did the hand in the wrong direction. Here we go. Left hand. Stage left when I do the fluttering hands thing with the leaves. Okay. Hi. Many much vehicle nonsense heroes. Hello. Stop being sick. I am trying. I tried. I have tried, and I will continue to keep trying. This is mostly at this phase. I might fall into a slightly deeper pit of despair in the next day or two based on what I'm seeing from the Tiny, but I got this from the Tiny, guaranteed, because she was like snuggling into me hardcore this last week when she was feeling her worst and just coughing all over. We taught her pretty well how to use the crook of her arm to cough into, and it don't matter. She's still sometimes forgets or sometimes gets lazy and doesn't do it. So I have probably that same thing. And right now I'm just in a phase where I am excruciatingly tired and achy. Like sitting up vertically upright hurts. Being horizontal hurts less. All my bones, you know what it feels like? Do you ever feel like there's a part of your body that you just need to like extend just a little bit extra and it's going to do like a weird pop or something? Just, you know, I'm sure you've all had that experience where just like one like slight twist extra of your body and you're, something just like shifted and I suddenly feel this euphoric minty rush through my body. I feel like all of my joints are asking for that, and I don't actually have anything to give them. They just have the ache without the sweet pop release. I don't have an exclamation point clip. You're gonna have to do the footwork for that one. We're gonna hop into Uncharted. I'm gonna work on some more of our Megalopolis server while I discuss. So, I guess in me bringing up the sickness that I'm feeling, just because I don't know how I'm gonna feel throughout the night or how my energy levels are gonna be or how talkative I might be as we continue to venture through this particular joyous night. I may get quieter and put myself on the back burner and let chat be the front burner for a while. Just read and react to what you guys say if that exists, and if so, I'd like to get my ideas out on the changing definitions of words sooner than later. So I'm gonna pop into the game and I'm just gonna go off. There have been a number of discourses maybe in 2023, where I was like, I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk about it for a couple hours without poisoning the well. And then right about it, the 2-hour mark of the stream, I'll mention my own. I'm not going to do that. If you're watching this on VOD anyway, you don't want to try to skip to that part and then see I'm like almost done. And then you have to backpedal like 15 minutes to see if that's where I started talking about, or did I delay it for 20 minutes because I got distracted with the game I was playing. It's what a game. Why don't I just come out of the gates and start talking about my own perspective, and then you all can discuss as my energy begins to wane. Don't worry, I'll save enough to make sure that I take the drive safely. Yeah. I'll pop in here. When my body does that, it's not a joyous moment. It has the, you broke it again. Oh no. I hope not. Which one of these is the right one? This one, I think. It's the one I've logged into much more recently. The reason why there's two Hallme homes on my server list is when you host one locally on the local on a local machine, and then put it online for visibility for other people outside of your household, you can't. I can't filter one of these results out. It shows both. So I'm seeing an internal and an external. I'm trying to connect to the internal. I think I'm doing it right. So I get faster response times, less ping. I tried doing the clip the normal way, but if I try to click publish, it doesn't let me. Oh, an unclippable moment. Are you being censored right now? What's going on here? Magna wanted to see what my intro looks like in stream and asked me to clip it, so I've been trying on a few streams. Oh, gotcha. Well, you could always check the VOD out. You came in at, what did you come in? 10. So that was maybe at the it's 15 now. I'm not that far off of real time. So maybe at the 9-minute mark of the VOD. If you want to make a note of that somewhere, you could just clip it straight from the VOD. Yeah. If the clip tool decides to just be a jerk tonight. That'll do. I'll send the VOD link and give the timestamp. There you go. Perfect. You can even send the YouTube VOD link, and then I get more watch hours from Magna. Yes. Am I the only one on? I'm the only one on. All right. It was a pleasure to meet up with Magna when we were on our trip, which was not a pleasure trip. It was a work trip for the family. And so it was kind and nice of him to make the time to meet up. And he took quite a drive to make it happen. That's always greatly appreciated. And it turns out he's just he's our tribe. He's good people. Immediately makes you feel comfortable with makes us feel comfortable with who we are, because we're the same kind of snarky, sarcastic sort of person. Oh, that's right. I was doing nightstand. I'll put these in here. There's no need for me to just like walk around with them. And actually, maybe I'll just put the whole shebang in here. Because what I'd like to do is, well, maybe not. What I'd like to do is clear out some of these dungeon quests that for some reason didn't clear out. But I don't know if going in there is going to do it. The ectoplasm press. That's for the second. That's for the second one. I don't know if I want to do that as a caster, though. I might hop on my warrior and give it a shot. It's just a little bit easier. Casters used to have it made until they did their last content patch and took away so much of our benefits. And by benefits, I mean they made it far less difficult, or far more difficult to just screw over the rules of the game, which They just definitely did. Yeah. So my interpretation of the changing of definitions of words is informed by my background as a linguist. So I studied linguistics at university, and I feel that the concept, the underlying idea behind we should strive to have language never change is one that is informed by English majors, by people who study English, and it's a constrained way of life. It's not realistic. It's not how languages evolve or actually work. Is this the one? Is this regular? This is not regular. Is it this roughly? I don't think it's roughly either. Languages evolve over time. Oh, it's refined. And there's nothing wrong with that when we say, oh, it's like really weird to have a language lose a certain usefulness to a word, like the word literally, meaning both literally and figuratively, and we've used it in both contexts for so long. It's not something that you can grammar police enforce anymore, right? Like, the historical evidence is there that this particular term has been misappropriated to mean its opposite for so long, or just for theatrical effect, for hyperbole, that now if you tried to enforce literal only means it actually happened, it couldn't possibly mean figurative. They're exact opposites of each other. You're just being a grammar Nazi. It doesn't work out that way. Language will always change, and we'll always have words that just don't line up to how they were originally formed or created. Some of them bother me, even though I'm a linguist. Happy Hump Day, Jam. Welcome on in. Tonight's topic is the concept of words that might be problematic as they change definitions over the course of time, and what happens to the people who are affected by them or the words themselves as they change over time. Welcome on in. How have you been? It's been a few days since I last streamed. This is always my return back to being back in the saddle. I feel like when I have my days off, it's actually harder work. Like, getting on camera and being in front of lights is a very natural situation for me. It's one in which I've lived this reality for so long, and I'm so comfortable talking, being recorded, the whole shebang, that being off of that kind of stuff, and generally what I do in my off days is try to catch up with everything that's like balancing our books and finances and paying off bills, and like catching up on like laundry and dishes and yard work, anything that's been like neglected for a while because of the craziness of Oz's and my schedules. That it's actually easier for me to be like, okay, I'm in the sanctuary, I've got the camera and lights on, and this is like my wheelhouse. Whereas that stuff, like, there's nothing uncomfortable to me about domesticity. I think it's got its own sort of comfort in its mundaneness of just like, okay, time to put on something on YouTube and get some dishes done or something like that. Uh-oh. Please don't die. I've died here before trying to do this stupid jumping puzzle. But this is actually easier. So coming back to my first stream day of this particular week, always feels like a little bit relaxing and comforting. Like, oh, all right, I'm back here again. And legitimately, I miss you guys. So coming back into having my live community again is very connective since we moved away from, moved away from our long-term friends in the last state we were in, which is the state where Oz grew up. I didn't, but I still have lots of long-term friends there. To move out here feels a little bit isolating. And we did it sort of like the pandemic wasn't completely lifted at the time we moved. So we also felt double isolation for that fact. Yeah, just good to be here. What about the word cap? So cap is used the way it's always been used. At least the spelling that I hear in my head when people say cap. It shouldn't be spelled with a C, first of all, right? So the idea lost, hello. I see my jump puzzle still holds up as difficulty. There's just like one or two jumps that are much more difficult than the other ones. I'm gonna practice this until I'm better than you at it though. As I like stumble myself off the edge of an easy jump. I went to open the bottle and there was no cap. See, when you spell it with a C, it just means something that's on top of something, right? So bottles, to close them, have a cap, and bros, to close the top of their beautiful hairstyles, wear a baseball cap, and those are spelled with a C. So that kind of cap hasn't changed in its styling, as far as I know, right? Unless you tell me there was that guy was fast as lightning, no cap. That's a different cap. They're misspelling it. And that's fine. If everybody can spell it with a C online to, you know, make it easier to remember how to spell the word. But as soon as you spell it with a C, you mask the etymology. The word is really supposed to be just like a spoken word. If you see it in its true spelling, it belies where it comes from, and it makes it a lot easier for you to understand that it's not the same cap as the thing you put on your head. But as soon as people try to spell it because it's from a different language, it makes it a lot harder. So I think probably, especially most Americans, especially young ones that would, well, cap is a pretty old slang now, right? So now the people who say cap are getting up in years, taking their meds, groaning when they stand up. Maybe. When did cap first hit the scene? Those people probably just spell it however you spell it in English, right? So they just grabbed the first thing they knew, like a baseball cap, and spelled it with a C. Yeah, it's not spelled the same. One thing that may fit into the topic at hand is the term dude evolving, where it can be used to reference an object instead of it referring to a gender. Interesting. It's not uncommon to refer to a woman as dude or a dish in the sink, for example. However, with the current social pressure to utilize pronouns correctly, it's kind of in a fuzzy or touchy area due to that. Interesting. I want to come back to that. I do. I want to come back to that. So let's talk about cap real quick and cap it off, if we will. Before this year, yeah, it's definitely older than just 2023. Everyone I've said in chat has said cap. The new definition is to lie. So when you say no cap, it means I'm not lying. Yeah. So it's not a new definition. It's not spelled C. And everybody's just spelling it the way that they know. Damn it. It's always like that same one. Everybody's just spelling it the way that they know how to spell it, because they're Americans and, you know, good luck getting an American to spell things the right way. So cap originally came from a little bit of an older slang. And by older slang, I mean maybe like a couple years before cap. And the slang was kappa. And kappa can be two different things. It can either be a letter in the Greek alphabet, or in this case, we're talking about Japanese mythology. A kappa is a creature that lies. It's a trickster. Kappas are like turtle sort of creatures. They're said to live in streams and rivers. and their whole job, I think, well, I mean, there's two jobs. So the job of the Kappa in stories is to like drown people unless you offer them something, or I think you can put something on their head. What do you put on a Kappa's head to make them passive? You put something on the Kappa's head to make it passive. But I don't remember the folklore behind that. But if you don't placate a Kappa, then its job is to grab you and drown you. This is the same story as the story of the Kelpie, if anybody knows what Kelpies are. If you play Final Fantasy XIV, there are Kelpies in that one aquatic dungeon with the turtle guy, the fairy dungeon. If you've watched Frozen 2, Elsa fights a Kelpie and tames it so that it is rideable, but it tries to drown her. And Kappa are just the Japanese version of the same thing. Now, the real like reason why they exist is to get kids scared of rivers, right? If a kid loves water and likes playing around on the riverbanks, they'll have a lot of fun and they might get too bold. And if a kid gets too bold around the river, they might find themselves in a really deep current or a really swift rapid and get sucked away, right? And there's very little a parent can do to try to save a kid who's been sucked away by a really, really fast current, except risk their own life and limb to try to save that kid. And that would be, you know, really bad. If it came down to saving one foolish kid at the risk of a parent's life, the parent has to really consider what's the right thing to do, because the parent can make more kids, but they also very much value their kids' lives. I made it. So you tell the story of Kelpie to make kids absolutely terrified of being near those rivers, and the same thing with Kappa. You make kids absolutely terrified. Yeah, so it comes from the trickster Kappa, from Japanese. Kappa would be the proper pronunciation. Let me catch up on back chat. I know, right? I've always thought Cap was just short for Kappa Cap. Yeah, why is it called Kappa Cap? Yeah, same. That Kappa with the K and the double P is the appropriate original spelling of Kappa. Cap and no cap originated in AAVE and are used to indicate when somebody's lying or telling the truth. Respectively, the term cap refers to a lie or falsehood, while no cap means no lie for real. The origins of this term are uncertain. They're not uncertain. They come from Kappa. I don't know where you got this, but it's they missed the etymology jump from the part where it matters. It's believed to have originated in hip-hop culture and then spread to other aspects of African American culture before being adopted by mainstream. There's some debate. There's no debate. I don't know where you cited this from, but I've only heard it in the context of AAVE. I've never heard it being spelled cap or having Japanese etymology. Yeah. Well before it was cap and no cap, it was, you would just say kappa or type kappa before or after, usually at the end of things that you meant to be sarcastic. And different communities handled the sarcasm or lie or trickster posts differently too. Like I'm on Imager often, relatively often, and kappa and cap never caught on there, but the really weird and only endemic to Imager community term that I've seen is by typing /s at the end of a post. /s just means the same thing, like, oh, I'm lying, or I'm being sarcastic, or I'm just doing this as like a prank or to be funny, but I'm not being serious or real about this. And if you wanted to be absolutely serious in Imager, there's no alternate to the /s. There's not like an inverse /s to refer to. Know what I mean? Dictionary.com also agrees with the above. TwitchSpeak has always said no kappa way before no cap. Thanks, Lost. Much like drip, the slang for no cap has become one of the most popular phrases in hip-hop. It's grown from a handful of mentions in 2016 to hundreds of references in 2018. Genius traced the origins of no cap by interviewing Get Boys member Willie D, UGK rapper Bumpy, and Dr. Streets King, a linguistic professor at University of Chicago. So this is wild. I've never once heard of the spelling with a K already mentioned. It was from Japanese culture. Are you serious? Yeah. Maybe and this could be just that, you know, the people who are trying to identify where terminology like this comes from, especially like hip hop culture in the mid 2010s, was not like terminally online, right? Terminally online people were still sort of like more heavier in the gaming and streaming communities, in the coding communities, and so maybe there is sort of a disconnect there. I also feel like the heavy like Japanophile or weeb sub communities were much more heavier, prone to be like big internet users or big computer science background sort of people, whereas the hip hop culture and anime started to do more of a crossover in sort of the late 2010s, which I also think if you look at that idea, you look at how much more like hip hop culture got cool with watching anime as time progressed, it made sense that something like kappa would be changed to be more accessible, to have more people referencing it from different subcultures than what would normally have watched a lot of anime or like spoken or studied a lot of Japanese. You know what I mean? It almost seems like the crossovers are like they fit so too perfectly. So moral, or like wrapping that up, basically cap never changed its definition, but it did change spelling to make it easier to spell, because I think people seeing KAP would be like, what the hell is that? Whereas seeing it as just CAP and just typing CAP is probably like better for autocorrect too. So being able to type cap and no cap on your phone is just like that much easier. Yeah. Phrases like speech separate from standard English as early as the 1900s. To cap meant to brag, exaggerate, or to lie about something. No shot. I've never heard that before in my life. I feel like that's what's the word I'm looking for? When you retro, what's the word I'm looking for here? When somebody writes a story that changes the backstory of something. I'm totally blanking on the term. They do it in games and some novels. But yeah, that I can't believe that. And I don't believe dictionary.com for some reason. No cap can be used to describe something that has no limit. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a much older term, right? That means that's the old use, or the word of the English word cap is just having no like limit or no ceiling to something, right? Yeah. It way predated anime. Well, so do the stories of kappa. If it was in slang dictionaries in the 1940s, I would need to see an 1840s slang dictionary and not dictionary.com. The idea about bragging or exaggerating or lying as early as the 1900s, I would definitely need like referential points to be able to believe it. It's from USA Today. It was in a published book in the 1940s, so maybe the Japanese origin is the cap. The thing of it is that when people are saying cap and no cap, it is like a direct handshake from the times of when people would say kappa. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, there isn't a disconnect, or like, we'd also expect to see if 1940s slang was sort of like the origin of saying cap as like a lie. We would sort of expect to see a continuum, maybe in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We'd see, maybe not in white American culture, but at least in black American culture, we'd see some sort of a handoff happening, or just some sort of a revival time where like other words from that same era would come up with it, like as all part of like a 1940s retro sort of vibe coming back. But cap started right after kappa was a big thing. So, and kappa wasn't a big thing until like the 2010s. To say kappa at the end of something when you were just clowning around was a thing. It would discount the existence of people saying kappa in the exact same format, the exact same way as people say cap at the end of a sentence to, you know, negate what they've just said. Yeah. I don't know. I would need to do some fact checking, which I owe the stream more fact checking on the periodontal disease and Alzheimer's. We stopped partway through the last stream that we brought all that stuff up, and I'd be curious to continue to go on, just see what we see in the studies. Well, we were reading a meta study, so it was like an analysis of other existing studies, but just to see you know, how the findings ended up and how much veracity we were able to pull from that. A 1948 published book of slang goes for $72 and ships from Ireland. I just want to find stuff online. I have $72 to spend. Yeah, I don't want to find out on that book. Thanks. Appreciate it though. Hi Akumu. I might get on depending on the little. I feel that our little was definitely hell-bent on not letting us stream. She was doing a sleep protest tonight because she said that all her body wanted to do was play, and that it didn't matter if it was sleep time. Her body said it was playtime, and so she needed to listen to her body, which means she's starting to use her rhetoric against us. Merriam-Webster Green Dictionary of Slang also includes several definitions for the verb cap, the meaning to date from 1902 to 2014, several African-American English meanings covered by Major and Smitherman, to brag about, to aggrandize, to lie. Interesting. Okay. I'm starting to buy into it more, but I also still believe that Kappa has a place in this because of my aforementioned. Like, okay, let's go into this. Now I'm curious enough that it's time to go into this. Oh, not you again. Stop. I don't like you that way. Okay. What are we looking up? Kappa slang term. And we could probably find like Google usage on this one too. Kappa, the name of an emote used in slangs, convey sarcasm or irony to troll people. This was entered in Pop Culture Dictionary in 2019. It feels super late. Oh, okay. 2009. Justin TV was an early video streaming website, started in 2007. Became its own site and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is Josh DeCino in 2009. He had his own emoji created. He was a huge fan. Named his emote Kappa. Others discovered Twitch users quickly began using Kappa in almost the exact same sarcastic manner as the troll face meme that also became popular in 2009 to joke around in chats online, or more meanly to troll them. So if Kappa started in like 2009, then the next question is, are Kappa and Cap related, right? My claim that is yes, they are. Reddit. Shall we dive into Reddit? Do we trust Reddit? I'm not saying Kappa doesn't have that origin, but I'm saying Kappa is different from Kappa. I'm saying it's not. Let's find out. Kappa was originally used to express sarcasm way before my time. Its most popular emote, wouldn't be surprised, pop culture, blah, 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 blah. Somebody says they're unrelated. Anything seems cool. Or all right, I don't know about that. That one wasn't a very long thread, was it? How did Kappa and Cap come into language entirely dependently? Sound so similar? Good question. Does anybody answer this guy on X? I mean, that would be my question. If Kappa and Cap come into language entirely independently in two entirely different worlds sounding so similar and end up meaning the exact same thing, how's that popular, right? Or how does that happen? This is from XQC. Of course, if it comes from him, it has to be the truth, right? I just figured out people saying no cap aren't saying no cap, but the meaning remains the same. Weird. No cap is try hard, no cap is five head. What? No cap is the normie version of no cap. Both seem correct. Thought they were just spelling cap wrong. I've always said it intending no K-A-P-P, but that's because I'm a Twitch nut. No cap's just the normie version. It's not based off kappa, what I've been saying this whole time. No cap is just wrong, and everyone who says it is wrong. So here's my thinking. My thinking is cap probably did predate kappa as a term used for bragging. And I have a hunch that kappa probably did sort of jump into popular use in Twitch as a community thing with this lovely gentleman, Josh Cicino. So using him as like the sarcasm shortcut was probably the way to go. But I don't think that use of him in sarcastic sense and saying cap or no kappa or no kappa or whatever was a link back to the word cap, which means to exaggerate. I honestly feel like the word cap to mean to exaggerate was not used at all, at least in the 1990s and later, to mean that. It might be in dictionaries that is a slang term, but as far as I know, cap, at least by the 1990s, was only slang in AAVE to mean like busting a cap, like shooting a gun. That would be it. The other version of cap might be preserved in dictionaries to say, hey, look, we acknowledge that people use this word in slang in certain communities. Here's the slang that it means, but it wasn't actually getting used. And I firmly believe that spelling no cap with a CAP is not a throwback to that original definition, but it is a misspelling of KAPP. It is taking no kappa just and spelling it no cap with a CAP. And that is a true handshake from the Twitch community and broadening out into greater usage with everybody else. It doesn't seem like there's no trail. There's no trail connecting the original slang in the dictionaries to usage that would connect up into modern day hip hop culture. Whereas there is a definitive trail of Twitch getting more popular, people saying kappa at the end of sentences, just like we say cap or no cap at the end of sentences. The grammar, the usage, the structure, and everything in modern hip hop culture with cap seems to stem perfectly from the exact same usage as how it's done with Twitch. I mean, it's just a coincidence that cap also meant something else, but that one doesn't have, there's no forensics that show that in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, that word continued to exist in the usage it shows in the dictionaries and had some sort of like, bridge into modern times that makes any sense to me. Yeah. Let me close that up for the time being. Let me back up so I can catch up on everything. Here's a definition from the 19th century going further back still. British lexicographer Francis Gross's 1811 Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue includes an entry for cap defined as to take one's oath with the example, I will cap down, right? Which is like the opposite, right? That's to take an oath. And then later on, it means to aggrandize or lie, which would be just a flip, which is fine. The flip of the 1811 to the 1902 makes something of a sense because we often do see words like awesome, meaning you know, something that's like, or that's a bad one, not awesome, awful. That's the word I was thinking of. Awful meaning full of awe or like really awe inspiring, becomes something that's like really bad or like averting, like something you don't want to get, right? Awful became bad after it was good. So cap being something like I take an oath versus I do the opposite of oathing. That would make sense. And that concept of maybe it went from the 1800s to the early 1900s sort of looks like it fits a vibe. But to go from there, from the 1900s to modern times and skipping over and around kappa and also being used in modern times like kappa was used, I just can't see it being part of the original term. You know what I mean? It just doesn't have that continuity. Kappa seems like Twitch slang. I think it's spread since then. Cap comes from more hip hop and Black American culture. I think it spread into that. I have to ask some of my Black friends, see what they say. Sure. Sources said no cap was popularized in 2017. That seems to make sense. It might have taken that long to bust out of Twitch, right? I've only really heard them use the term cap besides media, and they always spell it with a C. So I've never even heard kappa term prior to tonight. Have you been like painfully online? What's the word? Terminally online in the time that kappa was popular, like in the early 2010s. But I've seen that emoji in the 1990s. Bad meant good. Yeah, for a little while. That's true. That's a good example too. I blame Michael Jackson for that one. Yeah. I've been terminally online since the 90s, but only got into Twitch in the last couple of years since pandemic. Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad you're here. I appreciate your face. We'll put a feather in that because I don't know we can get like a full dissertation on that. Besides, you know, I have just like a strong hunch based on grammatical usage and everything. But I'll come back to Troa had one from earlier too. Let me back up. Oh, it was dude. Dude is an interesting one. I like the term dude. I could see how it could be problematic for some people, but it's one of my favorite terms. Maybe because when I was growing up, California was like fetishized in media and cartoons and stuff as like this really cool place to be. Jam says I've been on IRC for 30 plus years. IRC, hell yeah. I've been in and out of IRC, but not in a long time. Great discussion. I learned something new. Same here. I appreciate you going into the research mode with me and like pulling out information on cap's origins in slang. That's really cool. I mean, this is my wheelhouse right here. Since I lived in San Diego, everything is dude. Yeah, so I'm gonna swap out to my warrior and do some clearing of hulls, the hollow hulls, what we discussed, dude. Yeah, the way I perceive dude has always been in a completely asexual and sometimes apersonal sense. Like if somebody is like, you're at work and one of your coworkers messes up really big and like just makes a mess of everything. Like I worked in food service most of my life, so just imagine like a coworker was taking out dishes to a table for everybody's dinner, and they tripped and dropped every single dish of food. They all shattered. It was just like an absolute awful train wreck. And you just look at the carnage and you yell, dude. That to me is the epitome of dude. But you could also just be like, dude, to anybody, to any one person. Doesn't matter their origin. Now, if somebody was upset and was like, hey, you know, I'm a lady, not a dude, I'd be like, oh, if you don't like that word, that's fine. But I've never said dude with a particular gender behind it, because I personally I learned dude as like cool California slang and not as something you refer to a guy with. Like I've heard some people say the term, or like the catch-all phrase, like gals and dudes or something like that, I guess. But then that's much more limited, much more rare that you would hear it said like that. It doesn't really land with me. For me, neither dude nor guy have gender. Same. I'm the same thing with guy. Guy and dude to me both just don't track as having a particular gender. Dudes and dudettes. See, dudette feels gross to me. I would sooner call a girl a dude than a dudette, because dudette sounds like it was created after the fact in sort of like a, I don't know. It doesn't track for me very nicely. It's like calling flight attendants the old term of like stewards and stewardesses. It's just not my thing. Not my vibe particularly. Could be that applied to both / all genders. Could be. Dude, I quit. Yeah, I would definitely say it isn't. Probably as an interjection more than as a direct referring to someone. My dog Lilo is dude, especially if she got on a table or something, right? Then it's more of like the exclamation. Dude. Well, there's always the kind of ranching definition of dude. I think that's probably where the word originated from, but it has long since lost that meaning, unless you actually live in a place with dudes and a ranch and that sort of thing, in which case, you know, you can be particular about your usage, but just know that the greater world doesn't have those circumstances around them, and so they don't have the applicable connectivity. I think is like a male cow. Oh, I thought dudes were the people that manned the ranch, not the cow. Or a male horse. I use genderless guys too. Yes, you are safe to join. You're always safe to join. Everett, hello. Good evening. We're discussing problematic origins of words and or how they may have changed over time and what to do about the changes that happen. Dudette, I never liked either. It sounds like a lesser, smaller version of dude, like kitchen and kitchenette. Yeah, a little bit. It sounds diminutive, which some people like. So, you know, don't get me wrong. If somebody was like, hey, I identify dudette, I'd be like, hey, cool. I'm going to, you know, I just want you to be happy with the speech that we agree upon. And so even if I'm not like big on dudette myself, I'd probably use it if that was somebody's, if that was their jam. No offense, jam. I use their jam a lot when talking about people's preferences. It's not a reference to actual jam. The person. I used to watch Hey Dude on Nickelodeon. I don't know what that is. I didn't have cable. It isn't often I come across a fun philology lecture on Twitch. Here we are. Yeah, I think dude is one of those things where I've heard people have concerns about it. Like using the word may be problematic. But I've never met the person it was problematic to. Does that make sense? So like, yes, we're all concerned and we're hand-wringing that saying dude to somebody that might not identify as dude might be a negative experience. But I just haven't met that person. And that's not to say, therefore, it is a perfectly safe word and you should use it no matter what anybody else says. I think what it really means is that, you know, you should use it if you're comfortable with it, but the moment you find somebody is uncomfortable with it, work with that person to make the language comfortable, which might be a no-brain take, but isn't this just how like all language works? Like you might have a term that you find super comfortable or just a certain way. Oh, hi, buddies. Can I just bash you guys for no good reason? Just a certain way of living your life, and then you find out one of your besties is super not okay with that, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, you know, hey, I won't have to be that way around you, you know. I have a sister who objected to our TV has a smart dongle on it because we don't pay for like cable, or we don't have a broadcast TV antenna. I don't know who does anymore, but all those things are, so we just have a dongle to make our TV castable too, so we can use our phones and cast stuff to the TV. And you could set whatever sort of like rotating wallpapers you want on it. And we have a lot of like dark and creepy stuff on ours, and some nudity. And I have one sister who's just like, I don't come to your house to see like naked people. And we're like, oh, yeah, no, of course you don't. And you know, we changed what was on the TV while she was around so that we wouldn't make her feel uncomfortable. I'd feel the same way about dude. If somebody was just like, you know what, I super feel uncomfortable with the term dude. I'd be like, hey, my dude speech is put away then while we're hanging out. Another would be very up in the air as far as meaning or usage along the lines of dude is babe. Babe gets a little more spicy, doesn't it? I mean, how does everybody feel about that one particularly? Either as a term of affection, to a complimentary descriptor, to being an actual baby. It's fairly nebulous and therefore easy to interpret. Or easy to misinterpret. Sorry, yeah. It could also be very cringy. Yeah, I feel babe is immediately like too familiar. It bridges a gap that most people I think would only limit to you call your significant other that, and then only upon like agreement. Do you like being called babe? Good, because I like saying babe. And then if we both agree, then babe is the word. But if either party is particularly just feels off about it, then they'd be like, oh, you know what? That word does not have to come into play. We'll find something else. As opposed to people who do come to your home to see naked people. I mean, if I'm being honest, some people are, we'll just say some people come over to our house and enjoy what they find here because they immediately vibe. That's maybe the best way for me to put it. They didn't specifically come to see nudity. They didn't specifically come to see occult things or apparatus involved in death and dying culture. Or not culture, what's the word I'm looking for? The industry. But when they come to our house and they see those things, they feel comfortable, at ease, at home. Like we are part of their tribe. My older brother actually stopped dating someone because they called him babe. I think I would at least try to work on them so that they didn't use a term that they didn't like. Oh man, completely missed everything. Okay, well, we needed to be down here too. Just thought I might do some of the upper things first before I did all the lower things. That's fine. Yeah, I'd say, you know, can you stop using the word babe? It's just that word with me, it's awkward, and it just makes me feel funny. I don't like that particular word, and then just work with it. And if they used it a couple more times, you got to forgive people, or you really have to. I believe in forgiving people for misspeaking. There are certainly words that are easier for some people to give up than others. but babe can be sort of like a natural and comfortable thing to come out of somebody's mouth. So if I felt ick about it, but it was just like sort of, it naturally occurred with them. They tried and it kept coming out. I'd give them a few chances. I'd say, you know what? I give you like 5 chances, and the closer the monkey's paw gets to to closing, the further you're pushing me away, and I just can't hang with this sort of like repeated behavior. So I mean, depends on how offensive they were being with babe. Do I want any of this? I guess I do. Thank you. Whoa, that was close. Oh, I still have one. Oh, there's the other one. It's right there in the middle. How'd I miss it? Pardon. Excuse me. Pardon me. I don't really want to sit here and fight all of these guys. Yeah, do I use babe? Babe. Hey, babe, I don't know that I do. I'm really fond of names. I almost fetishize names to the point where I would argue, this hasn't happened, but I would argue if somebody's name was particularly weird to me, I don't know if I could date them. Like they just had like a really a name that when I said it, I felt weird about saying out loud. I'm trying to think of what that name would be though. But I feel this way. I do feel like there's a bit of a fetishization with me and the way a name sounds when it comes rolling off of my tongue. And if their name was awful, I might feel like I have to resort to babe. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not saying your real name, or I'm going to come up with a nickname for you. And actually, now that I think about it, there are a few people I used to come up with nicknames for. I feel kind of bad about that. But if you think about it, the people I date, they didn't choose their name. Their parents chose their name. I don't feel awful about maybe not enjoying somebody's name as much as I could if we're all in the understanding that, hey, this wasn't your choice. Now maybe it was. Some people do rename themselves, right? I have a friend actually whose birth name she hates. She hates her birth name. She especially hates sort of like what it implies about her. And I don't want to dox anybody without their permission. I'll just say it tells us, her name tells a story about her that she does not want. So she came up with an entire brand new name to call herself. And I don't like the brand new name because I think it mistells her story. And I sort of have permission to call her a nickname because I won't support the parental's name that they gave her, but I also won't support her adopted name either. I think they're both bad. And so I'm like, all right, here's what I think you should be called, basically. Which is it's a little bit assuming of me. It's kind of rude, but that's how I feel. And as long as she was comfortable with it, which she was, I decided this is your nickname. This is what I'm going to call you whenever I see you. And she was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So far, I haven't met anybody who balked at that because you get a bespoke name that I love, and you can tell that I love calling you that name because I chose it very lovingly to describe you in all the beautiful things that I think about you. I might find somebody who disagrees and does not like that. Yeah. Akumu, I know I do. You say babe. It's been long enough since I've dated somebody I'm not particularly certain myself. What about the name? Oh, how do you pronounce that name? Ash. I think Grimes is a cruel name giver, and I think Elon is probably one of the last people I would ever want to be a kid of. I know you can't choose your parents. If somebody said you have to switch parents and your new father is going to be Elon, actually, I'll tell you, that might be a hard choice for me to make. I mean, like, well, the devil I know, or like, do I try this new frontier and see how it goes? It's sad that I'd be like, I'm not sure. One of the things Oz and I struggled with the names that we wanted to give our kids, which we won't say because we don't want to dox them online. But I'll tell you, we're concerned about making sure that we chose names that would be easy to be friends with when they were in school, i.e. not bullyable names, and 2, would be good professional names when they became adults, because if you did things right, your kid will survive to adulthood and will have to work in a workplace. And if you named them something like that name, they're going to come up with their own professional name, right? They're going to rename themselves, and then you kind of failed. In my opinion, if your kid needs to pick a different name because of what you did to them, you've messed up. Like Bella or something? What do you mean, Bella? I use nicknames a lot if their given name is common, like Brad's or Brittany's. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm really bad at remembering people's boring names. So if your name is, especially if your name's biblical, or if your name's part of like a big trend, like you're one of 50 Chandlers after the show Friends, or what's another one? Oh, remember when everybody wanted to be Irish, and so they named their kids something that ends in Aiden, Braden, Jaden, Faden, Zayden. and I can't do names that rhyme. So I would definitely, absolutely give you nicknames in that case. Yeah, the more typical the name, the more I will want to create a good nickname for you. I'll usually create a really good one too. I'd love to give some examples, but the more I think about like, oh, here's a really good nickname, I'm like, oh, I don't have permission from that person to like give out identifying information about them and their lives. I think Vivian Wilson agrees with you. Who's Vivian Wilson? Reminds me of when Homer named Bart. No one could make fun of that name. Yeah, about that. My given name was obnoxious as a kid, but I love it as an adult. I guess that there's that. Yeah. Maybe your name is better when you're older than when you're younger. I think that could be okay. I would err on that than to try to come up with a good name that wasn't bullyable as a kid, but was awful as an adult. Just don't punish your kids by giving them a name that they can't be a professional with, or they will do. I've seen this a number of times. The higher up the like corporate ladder you get, if you get into really serious sort of work, like politics and law and medical and that sort of thing, people will use their middle names left and right. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm S. John Smith." What's the S for? Nope, not gonna tell you. It's just S. John Smith, sir. Oh, okay. This is much more annoying as melee, but a lot more sustainable than trying to do this as a caster anymore. It's annoying because you can get stun locked like this if you don't jump out of the way. I was trying to avoid jumping so I could get some of my stam back. Now you just get like pummeled. Oh yeah, you're still alive. Hospital messed up my little's middle name, gave her my middle name as her, was upset. Fiance not so much as it was an older name. Was supposed to be Nonola. Interesting. Instead is Nicole. I mean, I like that. I like the name Nicole too, but ultimately you should get the name that you asked for. And it should be the hospital's responsibility, right? Like if you go back and you're like, hey, we're reviewing the paperwork. We need this changed. They should have something in their system to be like, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Because a name is kind of a big forever sort of deal, right? You can't just... I couldn't imagine somebody as big as a hospital saying, well, that's just their life now. Or you can pay and go to this governmental office and get a name change or whatever. I don't know personally what the system is, but I'd be curious to know. Did you guys all spawn behind me? That was very cute. As I can clearly attest, it's a big plus to have a name that is easy to spell and easy to pronounce. Wait, how do you pronounce your last name? How do you pronounce the GH, out of curiosity? And as somebody who has an ethnic name, I can tell you that it doesn't bother me when people drop the final E, but I will always correct. I had a crush on a girl in elementary school who let teachers and other faculty and classmates pronounce her name wrong for years. For like 5 years, I knew her by one pronunciation. And then one of her friends who happened to come from the same ethnic background as her pronounced her name the right way. And my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for like years. First of all, for liking somebody and not knowing how to pronounce their name right. But, you know, I was just pronouncing her name the way I heard everybody else pronounce her name. And then I heard it right and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel awful. And I was like, I'm so sorry that I'd been saying your name wrong all this time. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. I felt more weird and she didn't seem to care at all. But when it comes to Halme, if I hear people pronounce it without the E at the end, I'll correct everybody. Like, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's Halme. And I don't get weird about it because I don't think anybody who watches my show is Finnish or Finnish American. So I don't have a problem telling them how to pronounce a name that they've probably never seen. I just tell them how to pronounce it. Now, if you come at me every single stream and try to like rhyme my name with clam or something, like I'll probably be upset at you for not listening to me when I tell you how to pronounce my name. I guess. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't think I would necessarily get upset. Okay, we found the hollow halls. Do I have to kill all these guys? Is that it? Is it because I'm skipping kills? I'll kill everybody just to make it clear that I cleared this area. Nolola was my grandma on my dad's side. I love that. By the time we noticed, it was a bit late. What do you mean a bit late? Can't you fix it? Is there really a time where you're locked in and you can't change somebody's name? Can you file for a name change later on? Does it cost any money? I have so many questions. You don't have to answer all these questions. I question out loud. I love that. We have the same thing in mind. For those of you who don't know, we have 2 girls, and our elder girl, her middle name is tributary to a grandparent as well, and then to our grandparents' generation, not their grandparents' generation, our grandparents' generation. and we have a boy's name decided that would do the same thing, which was the intent if our second was going to be a boy. Once we found out that it was going to be a girl, we're like, oh, okay, let's change tactics and let's come up with a good girl. The first name took us forever because we couldn't agree. We both hated all of the names that were being offered by the other person for the longest time. And then once we finally settled on the first name, then the middle name took probably just as long because it was like, well, we already did a tribute name with the firstborn. We have a tribute name for a boy if we ever have a boy. What do we do with this? What do we do with her? Our secondborn. We come up with a really cool name, I think, which unfortunately I won't say on stream, but we finally came up with it. It was a struggle. Once you have a really cool tactic, it's like, what do you do? My biological family has always pronounced it Panger, rhymes with soldier. Okay. But people's first guess is typically Panger, rhymes with anger. I could see that. Yeah. Everything else about your name seems easy enough to pronounce. Just that part. Yeah. I don't think we're used to seeing GH. And when we are used to seeing GH, the rule in English is good luck, right? That's basically what we say. With English, you just never know how GH is going to be pronounced. It could be like an F sound, like in the word tough. It could just not be pronounced, like in the word 8. It's awful. It's an awful word, or awful digraph, the G and the H together. Okay, Panger. Yeah, I will say there's also a difference between how I pronounce my last name on stream often and how my family pronounces it. So my Finnish family, I think I may have said this on stream before, my Finnish family will say Halme with like a little bit of a, I don't know what to call it, like a hiccup or like a little bit of a bump in between the L and the E and the M. So it sounds like Halme. Just a little tiny bit. It's not like, if you've ever heard a Scottish person say film, you might hear an entire other syllable in there, like film. Like, oh, I went to the cinema to watch a film. It's not that much of an extra beat. It's not a full syllable. It's just Halme. You hear it? It's not Halme. It's Halme. That I overemphasized that time actually. So I got to the bottom of this one and it still didn't update the quests. I'm upset. I don't know how to get this quest updated. I looted all 4 of these chests. Did I go down here in the middle too? Is there anything like a trigger or something that you're supposed to do? I don't think there's any reason to be more specific in this room to get something unlocked. You should just be able to walk to the end of this room, open up the sarcophagus, and get it. So why didn't it get it? We can, but I think it's hoops that we have to jump through, and with fiance confirmed Celiac, we're already jumping through hoops for him. That's fair. Pick your battles. Yeah. Choose your battles, I think is the term. Well, here I thought I was going to get rid of the one of the 3 main dangling quests to do. I don't think there's any other triggerable thing back here that would cause this to unlock. Uh-huh. Still more enemies. Who'd have thought? Actually, and I've never understood this, a lot of people misspell my first name by adding an E so that the end is et, like I'm a French female. Everett. I've never seen that, and I can't imagine what's going on in their heads, except that people don't pay enough attention. Or people pay just enough attention to get things wrong. Like, they recognize that a lot of words end in ETTE, and so they just assume yours does too. This would be the place. This would... I've actually already opened the one sarcophagus that would cause this thing to work, which I think is just this first one. Or the middle. Or did the one I opened already disappear? I don't know. This is really like the big thing, is coming here to unlock this to get the NPC, but we already got the NPC. Could be locked until they figure out something to patch. They might have to patch it. Yeah. Might have to patch it. Alright, we'll step out. Or can I just... I'm technically not in Shroud. I suppose we can just leave. Alright, so talked about Dude and Babe. We talked about, was on the... Oh, Cap. No Cap. Jury's still out on that one, apparently. I have strong ideas, but I'm willing to be swayed by evidence if evidence exists out there. Chicken soup. When did we get chicken soup? Amazing. All goes in there. So, let's tackle one of the ones that I have in my stream listing, which is the word racism. This one, I think, is coming back around again, but it had a definition a while back that I thought would be worthy to bring up as something that just created an issue at the time that it created an issue. And that's that there was a while where the word racism was being used in a newer way to describe explicitly the concept of being antagonistic or derogatory to somebody based on ethnicity or skin color or something about their background. Oh, wait. Can I back? Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to smash that. Do I have the key for the next one? I really don't want to like chop every door open. I just want this key specifically. I'll just make one.
Hope you don't die before we meet again.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you. But with one caveat on the newer definition of the term racism. Caveat being a punching at or attack of somebody based on immutable characteristics of their skin tone, ethnic background, parentage, you know, place of origin, place of ancestral origin. Explicitly from somebody who has power in the dynamic or in the metric. That's the part where I feel like it got particularly weird and negative for a while in conversations about racism. And I saw some really weird and interesting stuff happen culturally as a result. But yeah, historically, to my best understanding, racism has always been an ism, or like a thought, idea, a concept about how to... I should have gotten rested. Let me go get rested first. Dumb of me to not. A concept or way of thinking that revolves around, centers around race as an idea. And by race, I think also the idea or the concept behind race in the racist ideology or the racist mindset is that race are categories somehow, right? Like you can look at somebody and say, you are endemically, explicitly part of this cultural identity, regardless of what you actually put into practice, how close to a boundary you are. Maybe you're a mix of different colors and cultures and backgrounds and genetics and haploids and all that sort of stuff. But that gets too complicated for the racist mind. The racist mind probably doesn't address confusing cases. It just focuses on the cases that it thinks it knows as like cut and dry, quick answers to its own ideology. But, oh no, no. I did not want to go down here. I super don't want to go down here. Thank you. And I don't know if this is stopped. My information on use of the word racist or racism in the newer context where it's all about somebody who has oppressive power has kind of dried up.
Dad. You're my dad. Wookie, wookie, wookie.
Welcome, Oz. Hi. How we doing? What's good tonight? Everybody say hi to your dad who has joined the stream. Let me pause my my question to the audience and do some shout outs here.
Boop, boop, be-doop.
See? She's already got the shit down.
Short and sweet. Also, that last URL is where you can find a place to look at Oz's wares in regards to jewelry making. There's a lot of good stuff to be found there. Stuff that you cannot find anywhere else. So please bask in the wonders and the... Oh, I'm way off path. How'd I get way up here? All the cool stuff that is Blood Moon Menagerie and Oz's talented mind in design, putting all that together. Doing okay, having a hard time getting motivated to get shit done, so I'm starting nowish. I don't blame you. I also lacked motivation to start stream tonight. And then I started. Pulled myself up by my own bootstraps, if you will. Oz finally finished a massive custom order last night and delivered it today. That's right. A really nice order, which I thought was very sweet. I've talked to you all about it in the stream before, so I won't go through the whole rigmarole of what happened with it again, unless Oz wants to tell the story for her own sake. But yes, so I was introduced to the redefinition of the term racism in, gosh, I want to say it was like the mid-2010s, and then I haven't really revisited it much since. But the general notion was that as long as you're talking about somebody attacking or criticizing or addressing other people on the basis of their ethnicity, background, color of their skin, etc., it has to be from a place of power differential over that group to be called racist. And once you define racism in that way, you also do something else, which is if you are somebody who has historically been oppressed, attacked, belittled, and have no power over somebody else of a certain ethnic background or color, you're allowed to, what's the word, like punch up you know, like they say comedians are more fun when they punch up versus punch down. Did baked goods help your motivation? I'd say baked goods often help my motivation. I appreciate you sharing. It was a nice end to a long, somewhat taxing day for me. Endangerment, hello. I'm under 5. How dare you stream about racism? If you are claiming that you are of an age where you are breaking YouTube's terms of service because you're watching an 18+ stream underage, then I will have to forcibly remove you from my community. Do you want to recreate your statement about your age? I know you're just kidding. But if you happen to have a 5-year-old listening to this stream, that's on you for breaking TOS with that kid. I don't know that I necessarily want to sit here and fight all of you guys. Bye. Bye-bye. Oh, he still got me right at the very end. Yeah, the concept that... the concept bewildered me. Because it basically meant that as long as you were maybe part of a community that was underprivileged, had some sort of overarching power over you, maybe systemic situations that made it harder for your ancestry and for you as a result to get by in the existing structure, it gave you a certain level of immunity to say what you wanted and be a certain way to people of other ethnicities, backgrounds, upbringing, ancestry than your own, as long as those people had some sort of perceived power in the system that you didn't have. In other words, it gave you sort of like free reign to be a bigot or racist against other people. And that just felt so wild and hurtful to me. Not because I felt like somebody might come at me and hurt my feelings and then tell me it's fine because it's not racist as long as I'm saying it about D. Wasn't so much concerned about that. I was just concerned about the idea that we would live in a culture that might be allowing of people to take physical characteristics and use that as a way to judge and potentially target somebody in a negative way. Judging is one thing. Like I've heard that for some people it's hard for them to turn off judgments. I don't know how that works, because I think judging somebody by the way they look is kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's impossible to know somebody just by staring at them, right? Unless they're wearing something that declares something about themselves. Like a Doctor Who shirt, I think, declares something about you that you like watching Doctor Who. But even then, it's like, you know, do you know everything about a person if they're a fandom, if they express a fandom in who? I don't know. That doesn't seem to make sense in my world. Ow, jerks. Just trying to kill your spawner here. Let me kill the other one before you all come at me. And so, I guess if anybody's in research mode, I'd be curious to know, in 2024, in America, do we still have this concept that as long as you are not the empowered majority in your country, you can still punch up and say stuff about a person's skin and feel justified? And would you be able to, like, with a straight face, tell other people, I'm not being racist, that's not racist? Again, not protective so much for myself I don't think I'm even really necessarily protective for white people. I think white people sometimes get off easier than they like to admit. some white people anyway. But I still don't feel like it's right to be able to just with impunity talk about somebody's immutable characteristics, even if there's a power differential there. I have a lot of concern about how people use the word racism today. I prefer the basic meaning that races are inherently and significantly different. Interesting. I don't know that I could agree with that structure of, or do you just mean that that's what the term racism means, is that somebody who ascribes to the idea that races are inherently and significantly different from each other? I could agree to that. And then if anything negative comes into play, I would probably align those with like prejudice and stereotyping, and because there's also positive racism as well, right? Like in America, we have the right and the left, and the extreme right is shows like a prejudice racism. Like they'll say things like blacks commit more crime, or Jews control the banks, and looking for like a white ethno-state or whatever in some of the extreme right. And the extreme left might say things like, we need to tax the American people to pay for reparations to black families to fix the wrongs of the past, and white people need to feel white guilt for what their ancestors did. Wait, did I already come in here? I super did. I'm so turned around. Like there was a while where white people were like kneeling to black people in public to like decry the crimes of their ancestors or whatever. I consider that racist thinking, although it's preferential to a race. It's not stereotyping or prejudice in a negative way. Well, I guess both of them are stereotyping and prejudice. One's in a very negative way, one's in a attempt at a positive way, but still both centered around racism. 94 stream streak. Congratulations, Oz. I feel like I'm in a family where there's like a Billy Bob Smith the 7th, and now I'm obligated to name them Billy Bob. In your family, I don't think there's any. There's some loose. What's the word I'm looking for? There's some loose ideology behind passing of names down, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it's that strong. Wait, is that a fake door? I don't think it is. I'm eyeing a couple pairs of earrings and a necklace hard. Let us know. But yeah, in terms of the idea behind racism, I think the problem I have is anybody who decides that they want to center their ideology around categorizing people has already created a huge problem for themselves, whether with positive intent or negative intent. I think we all know really clearly and obviously what the negative intent looks like. You know, people creating situations in which they want to cleanse their neighborhood and have only samey sort of people living near them and experiencing what they experience, and passing jobs to friends and family that are like them, so that everything... Wait, am I going backwards? Why is this door open? I must be going backwards. I absolutely must be going backwards. How am I going backwards? Oh, I walked past these guys, and that's why it looks like I was in a new area. I completely got myself turned around. So dumb. Racism will always exist in some sort of way. Why? White people got nerfed. How? Only 2-year-olds can live in my neighborhood. Yeah, talk about it. What do you think happened with white people? But yeah, I think just as much as their preferences for people to do things just for the benefit of like their own sort of color or culture, whatever they think that is. That there's also people who want to uplift or benefit people who are downtrodden, but do so at the threat of others as well, or to still like bring other people down. And the problem with when you say grabbing a group of people to do something like this, the main issue is you're still having to collect up people by some sort of categorization. How do you do that? Where does the categorization come from? A lot of people will still pull from race in some way to make that happen. And if you're pulling from race, you're still being racist. A great example of this, I think, is the term Latinx, which I always thought to be very problematic because it lumps in almost everybody from Latin America with the concept that your experiences are probably what's the word I'm looking for? Collapsible into anybody else who comes from another part of Latin America, so much so that you can be defined by a single term. Most of my family on my mom's side is part or full Hispanic American or Latin American. And to say that just in my own family, there are experiences that they all have that you can lump them all to just doesn't make sense. We're family, you know, so you could lump us all and say we have like the same grandparents, like my aunts and uncles and all of that. We have the same like generations of people that we interacted with. But even then, some person might say like, oh, my grandma was, you know, this way, and somebody else might say, oh no, she was more like this. So even definitions of what it was like to live with a family member are going to differ from person to person. We have different political ideologies. We have very different outcomes economically. We sort of span the gamut. We are not all affluent. We are not all poor. And I mean, we don't even all come to family get-togethers, so I couldn't even say, well, we're all really tight-knit family, because there's a few of us that absolutely refuse to come to the family get-togethers. I'm not going to throw names, because if you guys don't come, I still love you. I just want you guys to know I still love you whether you come to the get-togethers or not. Ow. Stop spitting at me. Oh, is this going to open or what? Oh, if I stood here, nothing would be able to shoot me. Oh, did I not get this open? Is it going to open or what? Third time. Did I miss a stream for 18-plus-year-olds? We're still streaming. What's up, Based? I'm a big kid now. I guess you are. Real life endangerment says white race OP. Recent nerf is not enough. It seems that in all zones of the world, the white race is OP. I would argue that historically it's been that case in a lot of parts of the world, but they've definitely hit some what's the word I'm looking for? Opposition that stopped them in their tracks in a few different places historically. So, yeah, could be nerfed. They have more class options and easier need supplements. A definitive nerf is needed. I would say if there's one thing that ought to happen more with people in general, that would be to look out for other people that are not like you better. And then I think I would see maybe a world in which racism is a lot smaller of a problem. But it remains a big problem as long as you get it in your head that being different means something really negative. That, oh, well, if you're so different, I can't help you, or I can't do anything to your benefit. Ow. Realistically, people who are very different from each other would probably be less of a pain in the long run if you helped them out. Not to say that everybody who is different than you should get help all the time to your detriment. I hope I don't die here. These spiders could knock me off the edge. Helping people out is kind of like when cabin pressure goes out in an airplane, right? They say put on your own oxygen mask first and then help out somebody else. So I don't think you can just run out there and give all of your aid out to other people in the hopes that when it's time for you, you're going to have enough without doing some pre-planning. Pre-plan first, make sure you got your own needs taken care of, and then see to the needs of others. It's important to keep in mind that racism, as I define it, is mostly a factual rather than a moral belief. A long time ago, some philologists were trying to determine why different languages have different numbers of verb tenses. They hypothesized that the number directly correlates to the cognitive capacity of the people who spoke the language. That's a quintessential example of racism. Interesting. Yeah, I would say that sort of thought process is definitely like backed in. Maybe it's almost like a more perfect form of racism where there's less talk about what do we do to get somebody better quality of life or worse quality of life by stepping on their needs, or yeah, you're not trying to do better for one people or worse for one other sort of person. You're just sort of categorizing and connecting up with what you see. I still think there's a lot of inherent problems with that. I wouldn't call that good racism versus the other types, just a different type of racism which is also flawed in its thinking. Namely because complexity of language doesn't necessarily connect to the ability to do more complex things in one's life. And the ability to do complex things in one's life isn't necessarily linked to greater success or greater happiness in the end, right? Fall damage is greater than getting attacked by strong enemies. It is. I would rather get smacked around by all those spiders than fall. If you fall from that edge, I think it's an immediate death. I think it's just not permadeath, just instant death. Prep time, Batman uses that every time. Prep time? What do you mean by prep time? Oh, hi everybody. But like the idea that anybody could exist in a single category and say you are definitively, from this group of the world, you have to define what the edges of that group are, and that's where things get super weird, right? And that's just the beginning. The first weird thing, or the first like big logical fallacy with the concept of even just like a pure academic racism, is saying here's the edge of a border in which if you cross these mountains or if you hit the edge of this ocean, everybody beyond is going to be a certain way and everybody in this direction is going to be a different way. The second big logical fallacy being that you can make those vast predictions in that regard. You can make some predictions, like sickle cell anemia is endemic to an area of the world, right? Devonian genetics are one area of the world. So you can make some biological claims. True. But then to go from biological claim to like behavioral studies or explaining how... Do we have a spawner up here? God, I knew I should have come check for a spawner. I was attacking way too many randos to make this... Oh, there's 2 spawners. That's a big spawner. No wonder big things kept spawning. Alright, enough of you guys. It's boring. This place is dead anyway. Let me get here before anybody comes at me. We got another spawner behind me too, I see it. Yeah, we're not lumpable enough in those sort of ways to be able to say, well, you know, you look this way, your eyes are shaped this way. You've got something that I can now predict and define about the way that you engage with the world, based on, you know, what I know about your ancestry, or even in many regards what I know about your genetics. I would even argue genetics play a lot less into what we believe the propensities are in terms of humanity. When it comes down to it, we're really looking a lot more at telomeres, epigenetics as more of a resultant fashion of understanding how or why people engage with the world the way that they do. Things like your environmental stress factors, what sort of toxins are in your area, what kind of foods your family eats. You know, chances are almost everywhere that that people have developed as a species, we didn't start off having a great diet. There isn't a place that's just like, this diet is 100% perfect with no fallibility. Although there are a couple that seem to shine more than others. We tend to look at like the Mediterranean diet and the Okinawa diet, the big like seafaring, high-end fish and fruit and vegetables diets, as being areas of the world where the people tend to live longer lives and are healthier at the end of their lives too. It's one thing to have a long lifespan that's desirable or not desirable depending on the person, but I think everybody can agree that if you had to choose between the last 10 years of your life being painful or being comfortable, we'd all choose comfort, right? Oh, spiders. Oh, I hate touching the goo. 1, it hurts so bad, and 2, drains you of all of your stam. I have all these friends. I got my stream streak to 2, I guess sleep time. Based as long as you want to pass out. I mean, if you want to pass out, you're welcome to. Don't make me keep you hostage. But, you know, feel free to stay as long as you like. Endangerment says, I don't understand how Sans can't beat you. The skeletons? I am too OP. My character's not even white, but he's OP. Said we had an accident. Lil got up to potty, was too disoriented, lifted up the seat of the toilet, forgot to pull down her pull-ups, and just sat on the lip of the toilet and peed. That's not the worst accident, at least. We've definitely seen worse than that. I think that one is... It sucks, but that's not the worst. I do not like bats in this game. They're just a little wonky when it comes to targeting, and there isn't like a Breath of the Wild aim here to target to hit this guy sort of thing. Where would it come from? Not this way. It's not the worst. At least she didn't fall in the toilet, especially with the seat up too. Oh, she put the seat, like the full seat up? That's scary. Yeah. Anyway, not so much concerned per se about racism existing or not existing, what the nature of it is, but I do find it interesting that there are people who grew up with the idea of racism being a concept of being preferential and non-preferential to different skin types or different ethnic backgrounds. And now, or more recently, to hear it being exempted as long as you are sort of in the minority group or a group that was historically disenfranchised or unprivileged, that you're allowed to talk in very disparaging ways. Where are they all going? Are you all bouncing back because I pulled too far away? Where's your aggro radius? They're all so confused right now. Are you gonna rubber band? Because I don't want to have to fight you all individually. It was nice when you were all clumped together. This is annoying. But I'd be curious because, you know, again, that was maybe 10 years ago. So I wonder if today we see a different reality. Have we snapped back again? And does racism again mean with regard to race, period? An ideology with regard to race. Welcome, Sam. Hello, hello. It's an understandable mistake that they connected language to intelligence. If you don't have words for numbers greater than 3, it puts you at somewhat of a disadvantage. I don't know that I've heard that. It might put you at a disadvantage for communicating with people that do have words greater than 3, but it doesn't necessarily put you at a disadvantage for doing the things that you need to do, right? That's kind of one of the weird myths about like old linguistic theory, was that if you didn't have as many words for snow, you couldn't understand snow to the degree of an Eskimo. That was a prevailing theory for a while in old linguistics. The US government confused performance on the IQ test with intelligence. Although modern IQ tests are getting better with that, at least as long as you're taking it in your native language, right? Leading to 70,000 being sterilized by the order of the Supreme Court. Oh, yeah. If for those of you that are hearing this for the first time, if you didn't know that the U.S. was involved in gene cleansing, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a term for that. Eugenics. That's the word I'm looking for. We very much had a history of eugenics. Yeah, it's my understanding that the IQ tests have shored up their problematic past, and linguistics as a study and as a culture has definitely moved on past the era where we believe that lack of words means a lack of understanding. You know, if you come from an area where you've never seen snow before and your language doesn't have words for all the complexities of snow whatsoever, maybe you're even seeing snow for the first time in your life, you'll still come to an understanding of, like, you know, snow with bits of gravel in it, and sludgy snow, and soft powdery snow, and falling from the sky snow versus like densely packed and almost ice snow. Like, you could learn that stuff just like any trade skill or anything, right? You'll eventually come to an understanding of the things that you interact with that are high priority for your life. Same thing with like time system. If your tenses don't accommodate for the complexity that some languages do, you know, some languages have like a near past and a far past, a near future and a far future. And if you don't come from that sort of connectivity, you can learn it up. You can get it. Or in your own language, you can use helper words to get around a lot of things that you don't already have access to. Or you just steal words. Like, we in English don't really have a good term for feeling that sort of like dark pleasure by watching somebody else's pain brought into an easy word. So we just stole German's word schadenfreude, right? We don't necessarily have to create new words for things. Akumu says, we've tried the diaper over the underwear and she didn't mind it one bit. Didn't phase her. Gonna take her outside one day while only underwear under her clothes to see if that bugs her, if she has to go. Nice. It sounds like we're like neck and neck. Not that we're racing, just like, you know, more like you feel our pain. You know right about where we are in developmental phases. Endangerment says, I used to have friends that picked on black people. I think they were white, but what they did was wrong. Good thing we aren't friends anymore. What? I'm curious because I never had friends that were overtly, or at least not around me, expressive of any sort of emotion toward a group of people based on like looks. Do you know anything about like what those people were saying or thinking, like why they would pick on a person just for being black? I know this sounds super weird, like I should just know the answers to these things. I legitimately, through luck or just nature of where I've been in my life, have not spent time around somebody to understand like what breaks. And in my opinion, I mean, let's be real. This is a place where we can talk about like basically any topic, right? No matter what, you can bring it up here. But we'll talk about if a topic is bad or negative, right? And the idea that you could grab information about somebody and have it be useful information about them just based on a way that they look, based on their ancestors, it makes zero sense. Like that's absolutely fucking impossible. So there has to be some sort of a break in the people that make those judgments. And I'm curious to sort of try to understand what it could be where somebody would be able to decide. It could just be that they have like, my best guess, before you answer, because I know you're probably typing something, or maybe you're away from keys making a sandwich or whatever. But my best guess is we also do make big judgments based on small data. Not like, not as our science or like our data engineering and all that kind of stuff. When it comes down to, you know, doing big sociology, computer science, that sort of stuff, we're cautious about the numbers. We're cautious about survey sizes and all that kind of stuff to see bigger trends. But just as a human, we often make like the worst dog shit takes in the history of data. We will date like two people who look kind of the same, and we'll decide that everybody who looks like that is fucked up, right? Like, oh, I will never date anybody else ever again who has this particular characteristic. Like I've dated a number of girls who came from a background in gymnastics, and maybe it was all negative. So now I feel like anybody who looks like they have like a gymnast's body, that's a big no-no for me, because you know what happens around girls who took gymnastics, and that would be like ridiculous, because the number of girls that I've dated from gymnastics background is probably like, I want to say like four in my life. So me having dated 4 people, now I know something about, what, 8 billion people in the world. Well, I guess 4 billion the people that I would date. She regressed. Oh yeah, we're not having regression with the little. We're having regression with the tiny. The tiny actually learned graduated from our potty training boot camp with flying colors well before her older sister did, and we're like really pleased. We're like, oh cool, you know, the younger one figured it out this fast. Helping the older one out is going to be easier because she's like easier to reason with. She's got just more, you know, she's more with everything. It's just going to be easier all around. And then the little is getting better and better, and the tiny is going through a regression. It super sucks. But I think the mistake was at least potentially understandable. We had to learn the diversity or lack thereof of human brains across the planet. This wasn't information we automatically knew. True. Yeah. When I say, you know, we had some big problems with data scientists, linguistics, sociology back in the day, it's not to say those people were like inherently like bad or had a bad motive going for them. They could have just misinterpreted their data based on what data they could get at the time, what we knew at the time. And, you know, they did have their own preconceptions probably going into things too that they learned from their culture and history. So what do you do with that? You know, you can't take the scientists out of their own brains, their own presuppositions. The object with science is to try. And we're getting better at that too. We're getting better at objective science. But even objective science as a skill is something that we've had to learn culturally over time. Hey, Rush. Hi and welcome. Everybody, our snack god. Please bow and offer some tasty snacks. I am not snacking tonight on stream, so if you've got a delicious snack, please save our firstborn from the wrath of the snack god and give an offering. Rush, we're talking about, right now we're talking about racism as a word, but generally words that used to have one meaning and have changed over time and maybe are disenfranchising. Because people don't know what they mean in a modern context anymore, they get it wrong. Or we just need to redefine the words, something like that. Words with different meanings now than what they used to have. It seems Bayesian in nature. You form your opinion on the few examples you have, and that gives you a baseline. Prior, that gets harder to influence with the addition of new evidence. Yeah, that's true. All right, Endangerment says, I never really questioned why they did it, but they for some reason had fun doing it. I mean, so especially when you're younger, picking on somebody is a thrill, right? I feel like a lot of people have experienced this idea of you don't have a lot of power. A lot of people are telling you no, or push you around, or give you punishment for not conforming to sort of the greater structure of everything. And as a younger person, you crave sort of the ability to do that too. Once you find out a way to sort of manipulate the world in which you can then be participant in the telling other people what to do or have some control or power over somebody else, it's rewarding in a way, in a sad way that, you know, we shouldn't want because it's at the detriment of somebody else, but people still crave it. And it's funny to them. My comment didn't go through. I think it did on my end. Now I can't get rid of the comment I sent. You're fine. You're so good. Goon and gooning. The word goon that I know is probably an old one. Refers to like an old community of sort of like nerdy, silly group of people. So I don't know of a newer definition than that or a newer slang. I'd be curious to understand, especially so I don't use that word because I'm not part of the community that used to refer to themselves as goons. I used to play a game that was hosted by a community of people using that name, but I wouldn't want to misuse it in modern context, so help me define it. Akumu says I have gluten-free key lime white chocolate cookies. Oh my gosh. Akumu, how is it that you always have like the absolute best snacks? This is amazing. Hey Silvos, what's going on? We are talking about words that have changed definition and are either problematic definitions now or it's problematic that they've changed. We were just discussing kind of the idea that racism... what is this? Oh, I know where I am. Racism used to mean just prejudice against somebody else of a different ethnic or racial or colored background than you. And it's been amended, or at least it was amended maybe like 10 years ago, to mean only if that person has some sort of privilege over you, but it's okay to punch up if somebody if you're the minority group, then you saying things aligned to somebody's race who's in a power group over you is not considered racist. And again, that was like 10 years ago, so I don't know if that's the case today. If those people are still exempt from racism, or if today we look at that and say, no, that is also racism. That is all. You are also being racist, punching up, not just punching down. I know the old use of goon as being a type of villain's lackey or cannon fodder. Yes, I'm familiar with that term too. Yeah, sort of like a henchman, maybe. Somebody who's at service of somebody else who is much stronger and more powerful. Like random dude that gets punched by Batman while he chases the Joker. Exactly. They're hella good for gluten-free too. I love that. Come here, big guy. Uh-oh. I need to jump. Jump. Ooh. I almost didn't jump in time. Goon currently means someone, I believe, someone that has a bad obsession with porn. Interesting. I've never heard that definition. That's actually kind of funny. That's actually really funny given the definition of goon that I know from the community of people that call themselves goons. I don't think they use it to mean addicted to porn. I think they mean it to that they're kind of like silly elder internet users that are all part of like a tight-knit community, and they're all just kind of like goofy with each other. They called themselves in some parts of their communities the Goon Squad. If anybody knows that particular community. I hope this one clears up. This was to make the ectoplasm press. Reach the location of the road, slay the one-eyed creature, take its head. So we did that. I don't think this one's updating either. I think everything is stuck on the server. I hope they patch it so that there's a fix. Maybe we have to go down there and loot the sarcophagus first. Yeah. Endangerment says gay used to mean carefree, cheerful, or bright and showy. Now it's referring to male homosexuality. Not just male, but often, predominantly. And that one's kind of, it must have had a weird transition phase, right? Where it was like okay to say gay and then suddenly it was weird and you didn't want to say it. And, you know, there had to have been like when people tried to make bad mean good. There was definitely an awkward phase. It was so awkward that it didn't continue. And now bad doesn't mean good at all, that it died as a slang word. It was too confusing for people. All right. Well, that's like 0 for 2. I'm kind of frustrated. That's 2 different places we tried to update the quest log and we're not able to. I'm so gay in 19th century. You were saying? Oh, changed my mind. Then you'd still say it in certain company. But then you had to be careful about who you said to what when. I feel like that's becoming less of a problem, and so for a lot of doomers out there that want to say, oh, the world's like getting worse and worse, I would argue there are still many places in which we're seeing a better and better trend over time. I think we are definitely getting into an era of humanity in which it is safer and safer to be what you want to be, dress how you want to dress, say the things you want to say. Is it safe everywhere? No. Are the battle lines for where it's not safe clearer? I feel like they are. I feel like it's more understandable now than ever to know where you can and can't be as free. That's not necessarily like the most wonderful outcome per se, but it's at least a move in the right direction to be like, well, you know, there's still places where violence happens to disenfranchised groups, and that some people are getting super mad and sad that their way of life is changing, or that they feel like their old traditional values are dying. Spoiler alert, they are. They always are. And they always have been, right? No one would ever say that religiosity has stayed the same or has had the same support over the course of years. It changes, right? People's thoughts about what is good and what is evil, those change. What's permissible and not permissible in a society, that stuff changes. And so there will always be a group of people who are mad and sad at the change. And what we really want to do is make sure that those people either feel integrated carefully, so that they don't feel like they're being passed up or disenfranchised within their cultures, or we give them a lot of space so that they can't do dangerous things to us. I mean, you can always come back and punish them later on, but I feel like a lot of people will go and do the thing despite the punishment if they feel like the value. Whoa, I just unlocked the barrier for loading in as a new character. I feel like some people will act the fool and commit the crime if they feel like the righteousness is high enough. If their particular virtues and values and morals tell them that it's the world that's wrong, or it's their politics that are wrong, they will feel justified, and they will do the bad thing. They'll go to jail, and they'll feel happy about it if they feel strongly enough about the thing that they need to do, which makes it all the more scary while they're still around. I think we're going to see a lot of that more and more in the future because of how fast culture can change now, thanks to the internet. Once everybody who's lived their whole life around internet is basically old, I believe things will get a lot better. Like me, by the time I get to be an old person, I'm so used to never relying on a standard that I could not imagine having the idea that culture or society left me behind. There is no leaving behind, because there's always moving forward, and either culture moves forward and you move with it and you learn your place in a new society, or you'll just get like old and grumpy. It's the world isn't going to stop just because you decided that you know everything you want to know and you don't want to see the things you're comfortable in leave or change. It will always happen. I think the difference is old people got away with spending most of their lives feeling a certain way for a good long time and maybe dying before the change crept up on them. And now that possibility is harder and harder to live out for older people. I can't imagine, especially if you're like in your 80s and 90s right now. If you're watching the stream, first of all, thanks for being here. But also, you know, how it must have felt to live your whole life feeling like, okay, well, this is the new standard. Okay, no, well, this is the new standard. And having all the older people in your life say, you know, one day you're going to learn everything you need to learn, and that'll be everything. And then you just found over the course of your life that all of that was bullshit. And there's no way you could have ever relied on that to be the case. Yeah. Let's see. Endangerment says, you're reading this comment and wasting your time. Thanks. Jam says, what do you think about the constant moving train of English terms that first are regarded as polite and professional way to refer to disabled people, but then go out of style and become vulgar and then disused? Honestly, I think things like that need to be held in like a style guide, and whenever the style guide gets updated, that's when everybody just changes their term. Or, you know, it would be ideal. I don't know how this infrastructure would ever exist, but imagine that this exists. When you turn on your computer and your clock in the corner shows you the time, I'll wager that the majority of you are all connected to the atomic clock in Greenwich, right? So we're all using one standardized time. And it's not like we have to have several different versions of the clock that all broadcast to different computers. One place, one central location, thanks to the power of the internet, can just update as many computers as ping for that time. What if we started using that for other terminology? If we just came up with like a consortium of rights for disabled people, and they say, okay, here's the term that we want to use. Disabled is out, differently abled is in, and that's going to be the new norm until we decide that that word is antiquated, doesn't accurately fit. And then every time we need to, in documents, in legal paperwork, in framework for a business, need to refer to a given group of people, we refer to the experts in that field that have their standard. We just ping them for the proper verbiage so that everybody's doing the right thing. Wouldn't that be kind of nice and ideal? That's I might be thinking 20 years down the line here, but I just think that when it comes down to making big concepts about how to refer to a, first of all, a widely disparate group of people, second of all, using terms that might change quicker than society can even adopt or hang on to in their minds to use properly. The right thing to do is just to sort of outsource that to a group of experts that we decide upon. That's what I would like to see, probably. Either mentally disabled / handicapped or physically. I love that ceiling. I have a similar one in my tower. Oh, the one in our bank? Yeah, it's a really nice ceiling. It's just interesting that happens at all. Words are just sounds. Yes, but words aren't just sounds, right? Words are sounds that we make in order to transmit an idea from one head to another head. And the problem with transferring ideas from one head to another head is you have to choose the right words as the person speaking so that the idea in your head is passed to the other person's head intact. You could use a word that will make them feel a different way than what you've just said. I have a great example of this. I'm sure Oz will not mind if I say this. She had a word that was created that had a socialization by her parents. Hang on, I'll finish reading what you said, and then I'll tell my story of Oz. Some sounds are offensive, others are acceptable, but it varies based on the era. What is the even where a word goes from event where a word goes from acceptable to non-acceptable? I mean, a lot of those can be traced down to a single event these days, since we record almost everything. Endangerment says, my grandma told me that rad meant stupid. Your grandma trolled you. She was a troll before trolling was popular. Endangerment. Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Oz. So Oz's parents, when she did something that was like bad as a kid, they wouldn't say what you did was bad, or you're a bad person, you did a bad thing. They would certainly not use the word evil. I've never heard any parent use the word evil. Maybe some parent out there would say, what you did was evil. That was an evil act, my son. What they did tell Oz was, yeah, I'm not mad, but I am disappointed in you. And now hearing the word disappointed sounds really different to Oz than it does to like many other people. But she's not alone. She shared this with some of her friends. They're like, oh, I hate that word. Disappointed? Oh, it's like awful. You know, it's really just, oh, it makes me feel really, really bad if somebody says that they're disappointed in me. I didn't grow up with that enculturation whatsoever. And we've discovered that, it comes out of my mouth as like random vernacular, usually meaning the exact dictionary definition of the word. You know, you appoint a certain expectation of something. Like we went or we didn't go, but we saw an A24 film recently called X, and I love A24 films. So we watched X, and it started out really good, and by the time it was finished, I was like, eh. I appointed high expectation because it was an A24 production, and I love A24 productions. We watched this one, and my appointment was missed, so I was disappointed. You know, it was like I wouldn't say it was a bad film. It was actually well done. It did everything it sought out to do at very high skill, which I think A24 is great at. Very highly skilled, and it did exactly what I think its goal was. But I was disappointed with the goal. And I think if I used the word disappointed, Oz would have been like, oh, I don't like hearing that. I like hearing that term. Because to her, it means something very, very different. This is the universal hello in Shrouded, by the way. For those of you that don't know. You got to come up and duck at somebody. What about the term inflammable? I think that's the result of that coming from non-English root, right? So when you say in, it can mean something very different. Depending on what root it comes from. Ooh, cool. This is... Oh! I love the way this meanders. This feels so good. This sort of just like you walk in, you twist, you turn. There's just something really cozy and nice about this. This is a very, very nice feeling. Uh-oh. I can't sit on the chair. Oh. Well. Everything else looks great. Can we sit on this chair? Oh, no. Are these chairs not sittable? Or are they just too close to the table? I forget. There's sometimes, if a chair is too close to the table, it'll make it so you can't do the sit animation. But they might not have animations for everything just yet. This could be a fault of the chair. I think my parents told me that too. Maybe ChatGPT can be the babblefish and we can speak normally and it can communicate the message in the neutered way the listener prefers. There could be something to that. I don't think we need... ChatGPT might be a bad example of this, but something similar to a Google Translate sort of core, where if you say, you know, these are the ways that I prefer to hear speech, please conform to this standard. You know, could you somehow make it so that everything translates between two people so that it conveys the right ideas without hurting somebody's feelings that you didn't really intend? If someone told me that they were disappointed in me, I will feel bad, but I will know to do better next time. That's how I think I would feel. Disappointed. It's like, oh, okay. I kind of let you down here. I'll try to do better the next time around. But I wouldn't necessarily feel like gutted. Whereas I think Oz would have felt gutted. I loved X, great movie. Also liked the sequel. There's a sequel to X? Okay. Figured I'd get some furniture in here. I can move one out to sea. Oh, okay. They were just too close. All right. How are you two using disappointed differently? The film doesn't care that it fell short of your expectations, but a person can care a lot about falling short of a parent's expectations. Yeah, I think what it is the severity of the idea of falling short of expectations. The way Oz and I use the word disappointed conveys the idea of what it means to fall short of someone's expectations. When I say disappointed, the amount of hurt my expectations feel is a low level of hurt. Like, oh, this missed the mark. I had high hopes. My hopes were not met. But I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I'm not judging long term. I just feel like this one time could have been better and it wasn't. And so I'm like miffed, peeved, maybe a little bit. Oz using the word disappointed would more mean like you're a letdown. You are almost a disgrace. you have I had an idea about the type of person you are, and you are proving to me, you are giving me evidence that you are not in fact a person of these qualities and characteristics, and I'm not sure what I can trust or expect of you in the future. Do you hear sort of the difference in missing expectations between those two there? Yeah. It's actually more of a prequel, so it's the old woman's story when she was young. Oh, okay. I could maybe get behind that. Here's the problem that I have with modern horror. Wait, let me catch up with everybody, because if I start on modern horror, this is gonna fucking take a while. Deidre said it's like in Minecraft to say hi, you spam crouch and wave by clicking. Yeah, exactly, 100%. You know it. It's almost the exact same thing. And this is a Minecrafty sort of game. Oh, it's called Pearl? All right, we'll check it out, probably. Angled legs on stools the way you face when you sit. Oh, I hadn't noticed that. Okay, cool. All right. Actually, let me wait for the ad break for the Twitch folks in the cheap seats, and then we'll talk about what I have a problem with horror. Ugh, this is it's too low. Almost from that ledge up there, you can almost reach the ledge that this building is on. At least I have the upgraded grapple. A lot of these buildings are looking better and better from the outside, but there's still some work to do. We haven't done all the repairs. Oh.
PyCarve just subscribed.
I love the way they pronounce that. Thank you, Sam. Super appreciate that gift sub to Pika. Awesome. You are climbing the charts in the gift subbing community here, and I super appreciate that. We've got some big plans for the next few years here, and by next few years I mean there's a business plan. So I want everybody to know. Yeah, I mean, you already know if you've been here for a while, especially if you're a ghost, you already know this sort of stuff. But there's a trajectory for this. I am not a hobbyist streamer. I am somebody who is trying to get Oz in the workplace as a mortician full time, and that means that I need to do something on the side to help out with the household, because if I quit and she goes full time, we drop in earnings and annual earnings for the household. It's not it's because she's female or anything like that. It's because of what I do for a living currently and what mortuary science earns. It's just an unfortunate state of the way the end of life services pay. That said, I'm ready and willing to be a full-time content creator at that moment that we feel like we can make that exchange happen between the two of us. And there's so many things that I have time. Thanks for the lurk, Troa. Catch you in a flash. See you on the other side. Yeah, what at some point do you guys want to have we should have like a big celebration stream. We hit like 300 followers on Twitch not too long ago. We're almost at 2K on YouTube pretty soon, and yeah, I feel like you guys have earned something like a big celebration, but I'm not quite sure what to do. But one of those things might be to like divulge the trajectory of the business plan. Would you guys, is that interesting stuff to you to want to see? Like a full business plan for somebody who wants to be like content creator, full-time, like taking care of an entire household, doing this kind of, not just this discourse, but like all my different facets I'm looking to get into. You ever watch 6 Feet Under? Oz loved that show. I did not. I haven't watched it personally. Yeah. 1.96K. Yeah, we're really close to 2K. Give us money? Me give you money? I have kids. They get money first. Tell you what, if my kids are lined up such that everything is set up for them to go to college, then we can talk about giving endangerment money. Yeah. Because once my kids are taken care of, then, you know, then I'm willing to maybe we do like cash giveaways, prizes, all that kind of stuff. Can you do that kind of stuff? Is there like a tax requirement if I got like gifts and prizes and stuff for the community? I wonder. Yeah, I love 6 Feet Under. Still think it's one of the best finales in TV history. Oh. You're whetting my appetite. Maybe I will have to. If I started watching it again, I guarantee Oz would rewatch it with me. Right, horror movies was the last thing we were talking about before I asked you all if you would want to watch a stream where I talked about my business plan. The thing about horror movies is I feel like it's really popular to sell the idea of a prequel. And the reason why I think people love prequels is because a lot of people are intimidated or scared of horror, and they don't really enjoy being left in a place where the horror film doesn't answer their questions to make them feel comfy. You know? Like at some point, a good horror film will leave its viewers stuck, hurting, wanting more knowledge, wanting more information, because the less you know at the end of a movie, the more creeped out you are when you go home. You're turning on all the lights, you're checking around corners, you're looking behind the shower curtain, because you just don't know. They didn't give you enough information to get your closure. And so they want a movie where you get your closure. So they made so many of these movies already, too. A lot of movies. They're making another one for The Strangers. Strangers Chapter 1. To tell you who the strangers are and what they're like. So you can feel like you know a little bit about them and get their motivation in. They did it with the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's really understand Leatherface better. They did it with Halloween. Let's get Michael Myers as a kid and really understand like how he ended up being like he ended up being. You know, they give you this sort of like closure in the modern prequel concept that scratches the itch of the person that hates horror. Me, I love horror. I love the unspoken story. So the more you tell me, the less respect I have for the villain or for the force or whatever it is that has caused all the mayhem. The more I know, the less intimidating, the more understanding I have. It's just, it ends up weakening the entire experience. Look at this. I made a horrific little house here. You got these dark corners that you can't even see all the way down. Good stuff. This is a properly creepy house with all sorts of creepy accoutrement as well. And then close this behind me. Yeah. And so when it comes to horror, I almost never want to see prequels because they're almost always made for the normies that can't handle watching the movie and then being left with that sense of dread that can't close things up, knit things together for them so that they feel better at the end. I like that feeling. I like that feeling of dread. I will say the only movie I've seen where I've enjoyed the prequel so much, and it wasn't even a great movie, just that it was such a better prequel than the original movie that they almost don't deserve to be related storylines at all, is Ouija Board, The Origin of Evil. Does anybody know anything about that one? I'll catch up on chat here. Endangerment says, you give money to your kids donate money to me, and I won't give anything to charity. What's in it for my kids? My house is Maze Runner, basically. No, if you can guess what my house is fashioned after, I'll give you a cookie, a virtual cookie. Like, I don't have real cookies to give you. And I don't know your mailing address, and then if I send it to you, then you'd know my mailing address. It's just a whole mess. I'll give you a fake cookie. Tara, hey, how's it going? Evening. We had a big old chat the other day about how some social media based euphemisms like unalive are supplanting their original words and how it seems to be washing out the gravity of the original meaning. Interesting. I personally feel, and this is just a me sort of thing. I love that you're having these chats, by the way. Amazing. Tara, for those of you that don't know, one, I need to do a shout out. And two, yeah, Tara is just kind of like a brain twin. That's the word I coined the other day when I popped in on her stream. But there's a lot of sameness in our heads. Also, she's a skilled sniper. And has a lot of good clips of said sniping. I might have seen this one.
Okay, well I can't hit you behind the railing.
Yes, you can. Do it.
Maybe after you get up here. Don't stand behind the pole.
You can still snipe him. I believe in
I
you.
definitely can't hit you standing behind the pole.
And then it happened.
I need you to come out.
Wait for it.
Or maybe I don't.
Boom. Yeah. I love 6 feet under. Oh, we already read that. Accoutrement. What? Laughing at my usage?
Tara_Steelheart just subscribed.
Sam, thank you so much for gifting a sub to my brain twin. You did great with patience. Yeah. Endangerment says aimbot. Nope. Wall hacks now, and she killed him. Haters will say it was an aimbot. I was always the sneak thief archer. Sneak thief archer is like I think the #1 chosen build in that particular world. It's just it's so tasty. It's such a nice way to play Skyrim. It's safe. It's dangerous. Very powerful. Yeah. Yeah. So, right. Words like unalive. I feel this is just me. I don't know if other people feel this way, but there's something about those words to me that gives them more gravity. When people say, and then she unalived herself, I get this feeling like we can't say the word, and because we can't say the word, there's an even higher level of emphasis on it. You know, if somebody says, okay, this isn't another. This is a word that I got. I asked a friend of mine her thoughts, and I was disappointed. I'll use that word again. I was disappointed. It was some white guy making fun of the word cracker by saying like some stupid joke about how it was used, and I asked her. She happens to be white. I asked her, what do you think of the word cracker? And no, I didn't say it that way though. What I typed is, what do you think of the usage of the C slur? Because I wanted to see what she would say if I called it the C slur. And I can't say how she responded, but it was interesting. But calling a word like that the C slur gives it a certain level of gravitas, right? That isn't necessarily the same as saying the word cracker. If I'm allowed to say that online, I think I am. As far as I know, that one doesn't get me canceled. If it does, well, hey, it's been a great run. I always think about the old guy frustrated with filming RV ads, swearing at the script. Accoutrement? What the fuck is that? I don't know that one. Oh, wait. Yes, I think I do. I remember that. That was like some old YouTube candy they used to show back in the day. I think I remember. It's getting dark. Maybe I don't want to be up here doing this. Let me guess. There's no way down from the attic. Of course. Of course. How good. Can I jump my way up out of here? All right, good. I don't want to try building while it's dark. It's annoying. We did end up moving toward that R word that I can't use here if you want YouTube to leave your VOD up. Interesting, because if it's the R word I'm thinking of, which refers to the speed of somebody's mental acuity, I have heard that word on YouTube, but maybe only on the course of like big content creators who can get away with it. That word, the R slur, for those of you that probably have an idea of what it's talking about, as far as it's a direct. Oh no, not that. Oh, the other. Oh, the verb. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking in terms of nouns. Yeah, true. I guess we haven't. We don't use that word on this stream, but I guess we just call it. We just use the verb. We use the letter R as the verb. Like, and then he R'd that person, I think is how we've done it before in the past. That was pretty awkward. Although on TikTok, I've heard SA, right? I think if you think about it for a moment, the verb could also be abbreviated as SA. So I've heard somebody say, you know, she was essayed. Just makes me think of the word essay, though. It's a little bit confusing. The one Tori Amos knows. Yeah, that's one way to put it. When I hear the word unalived, I mainly just think how dumb it is that Twitch and YouTube think that they can help people's mental health by deploying bots to do keyword searches. Yeah, I'm not sure where the censorship of words is going or why, but they are corporations, so it's kind of hard to say we deserve like a certain amount of rights and freedoms on your playground that we're all allowed to come into for free. I mean, really, these are and have always been dictatorships, right? There's some group of people that make decisions in a boardroom, and they think about shareholders and the future trajectory of the business and what's the most popular choice to make that's going to sort of make their business trajectory just make the most sense. And none of that kind of stuff really necessarily comes into your home to sort of understand, is it easy or hard for you to pick up the linguistic gymnastics? Do you find it annoying? Do you are you okay trying to do this? It's sort of set into policy, and then you have to find out. You usually have to find out by other people who fuck around and mess up and get banned, or the worst part would be those who get shadow banned from this kind of stuff because they choose a certain way and they don't know what they've chose. What they've chosen. There's a couple people that have indoctrinated me into saying have chose when I shouldn't. Have chosen, and you don't necessarily have to get a warning as to what happened, right? That's the hardest part about shadow bans, is there's never necessarily a clear messaging going forward that says, here's where you stepped wrong, here's a warning, don't say this particular phrase again, or don't, our community guidelines are very clear about this particular word. And then you also see the difference between big streamers and medium and small. Some are subjected to bots, some are not, or what a big streamer is maybe affected by a bot in some way. They usually have an account manager that they can appeal to, somebody that they can call up and go like, hey, yo, my insider YouTube guy, I was wrongfully demonetized on this video. Can we talk about it? Can you get it monetized again? And different standards for different level of people. I'm hopping out for the night. I'm not going to leave my not signed in YouTube. Oh, I'm going to leave my not signed in YouTube lurking. Thank you. I fixed my stool so you can sit now. Oh, go take a look. Thanks. And have a good night. Enjoy your, hopefully, all kids sleeping all the night time so that you can be an adult. All right. Endangerment says, I think I know. It's that woman who thought she was being followed by spirits and made a house with a bunch of twists and turns to trick them. The house you're thinking about is in California, isn't it? The Winchester Mansion. My house is not fashioned after her, but that's a very clever choice. And I commend you for knowing its existence and using that as a reference. That you win cool points with me for having known that house. She turned herself into a corpse or is greater than she just unalived herself. I don't know if you could say corpse everywhere. TikTok might be weird about the word corpse because especially Chinese culture is a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Picky about using terms that refer to bodies, dead bodies, corpses, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. We were talking about how people use SA, but that isn't the same thing necessarily. It doesn't hit as hard as the original. True. And it can be a wider category, right? SA can also just be an unwelcome honking of the boobies, which whilst also unacceptable is not the same thing, right? I buy the dictatorship, but we may need to seek alternatives if the restrictions get out of control. I'm on kick.com, Everett. You can always watch me on 3 different places. I know you pop in on my YouTube streams, but I'm on multiple streams. Yes, the Winchester Mystery House. I lived near it for many years, but, and I'm not sure why, never visited. Oh. Did you ever see, like, wasn't there a movie made about it too? I don't think it was good, but I'm going to sit in every stool just for quality, just for QA. Does every stool work? I did this in my own house though too. Checked every stool to see that it was good. Yeah. This is a nice, this is coming out really nicely. This is kind of like a hobbit hole design is what Akumu said that she was going for. And I rather like it. I really like the sort of twist, the C shape going on there. It's got a nice feel. And it definitely creates a sense of rooms without actually creating rooms, you know, just from turning corners and moving around. Feels good there. Yeah, I personally, I don't know all of those tiptoeing terms, but I imagine when I finally get around to breaking into TikTok, especially, I will want to learn how to speak in the way to let the TikTok overlords leave me alone so that I can continue to make content. I'm sure there are online guides, so you could just be very cautious about what you find yourself saying, and maybe just write yourself a little script beforehand so you don't do anything that would get yourself in trouble, especially if, like me, you're looking to do this to try to support a family. You don't want to endanger yourself for no good reason, right? Well, hello, Sam. Good to see you over there. That's one of my favorite animated emoji. The sort of looking over both shoulders. I always associate that one, though, to being like the start of like a racist joke. Or some sort of like, you know, joke where you need to look over both shoulders before you say something about the people involved. Not to say that's why you used it. I saw that the film got terrible reviews, and I don't think the film claimed to have any historical truth. I never bothered watching it. Probably fine. Isn't that the guy from SpongeBob? Yeah, I think so. All right. Let's reorganize that. Do you want to go in and fix that attic part up there? Probably. Yeah, personally, I'm not against learning new vernacular if it means doing something specific to a platform's TOS to keep the overlords of that particular platform happy. It's annoying and it might not be what they intended to create in their community, but at the same time, it's, you know, everything you're using on the internet in these regards, like creating a social media profile and then trying to make a business out of it, all of that is always done in the good graces of some business is letting you do these things. And so the answer isn't to be frustrated by it, but just to roll with the punches and admit that, you know, sometimes, oh, you know what? I need a way for me to get out. Sometimes living in somebody else's playground has to be done abiding by their rules. Wait, why does this look so wrong? Okay, I'm not sure what type of rock that needs to be. And it can be somewhat tiresome to keep hearing. It's not that kind. Keep hearing words that you're not used to in like weird vernacular. But I think you get over it. The more you listen, the more you keep engaging with those communities, the more regular it becomes. Which one is this? Is this one that I don't have on me right now? There's no way it's that one. Is it just regular stone block? Maybe. It doesn't look regular. I thought I had every type of stone block on me, but maybe I don't. It's definitely not those. Maybe it's... Weather does not look right. Maybe I'm just too tired. I'm looking at them all like, are they all wrong? They can't all be wrong. What's this one? It's regular. It's gotta be. It's gotta be regular. All right. Next word, or at least the one that the other one I thought about to put in the title of the stream that we would talk about at some point tonight, is the word gender. And this one raises sort of the big concept that I had going into this stream. And that's basically that all the issues that I hear with people complaining about the word gender stem from a group of people that just learned the word to mean something else. You know? When I hear people complain that that kids are or that they're only, I guess the big complaint that I hear from especially like older people is that there are only two genders, right? I hear this from some younger people. It generally seems to me to be much more of an older person argument. The only two genders argument. And while it's frustrating, it's really obvious what they're saying. What they're saying is they were taught that gender and sex are the same term. And frankly, we're still stuck in that linguistic trap a little bit. Like we haven't fully outgrown that world where that's sort of like the way that we communicate in that term, right? even people who are much younger that probably don't have this problem that I hear in some groups still have the problem of saying like they are having a gender reveal party, right? Or talking about what gender a bathroom is. Something along those lines. Isn't there 4 main types of genders? Wait, hang on. Let me back up to what you were saying at the very beginning. Gender, I swear this generation is having that problem. They, them, no. What else is going to happen? Who, they, where, how. So they, them's been around a lot longer than just recent generations. Colloquially, we use they, them almost all the time. We just don't know who we're referring to, right? But as far as how many types of genders, our language isn't really well prepared for explaining gender in terms of something different from biological sex. And I think that's where the big confusion and problem happens, especially with older people, is we didn't really create a whole social movement to go into the idea that we could decouple those concepts. Oh crap. Is this only 3 wide? Doesn't feel like I was only doing this 3 wide, but I'm gonna just do it 3 wide up here, and I can always fix it later on if I'm wrong with what I'm guessing. I'll try it like this. And so, yeah, we definitely have a world and a history and a sort of functionality in society built around this handshake, wink, and nod about using the word gender as shorthand for sex that's lasted generations and generations. And I think one of the big things is that it's polite for people that came from cultures or communities where it was maybe impolite to discuss sexual matters. And so even just the word sex to some people is a little bit spicy or racy. When you say, oh, you're having a baby, what's the sex? You might hear certain people's ears prick up a bit when you said sex. Whereas saying what's the gender is just like a little more of like a polite and sterilized way of saying the same thing. And it just sounds more clinical than saying sex, when sex also has this other meaning of being in the bedroom sort of thing. And so I think for quite a while, for many generations, Americans especially just turned to the idea of, let's just say gender in a lot of situations. Gendered stalls, gendered bathrooms, gender reveals. You know, just it kind of made sense for a while to do. And the concept of gender being something that's different than sex entirely was really born out of sociology, wasn't it? 1970s, I believe, was the first time. I think it was coined by one particular sociologist. We'll have to do some fact checking. If somebody's in a researchy mode right now, you can help me out with this because I don't remember the exact specifics of where we started with the idea. But the idea being that gender is not tied to your physical characteristics of the way that your body is manifesting, especially post-puberty, but that it is a handshake of you with the community at large. It's how you choose to express and identify, and how you engage with others. It's interpersonal. It's inside yourself, how you feel about how you are, and it's also how you connect to other people. But it's not like pull down your drawers and let's see. And then that wasn't engaged with the rest of the greater world. And that's where you see the hang up, I think. I don't think older people can't get the concept. I don't think that it was well explained when it was adopted by younger people. Does that make sense? Like they got left out in the cold. Yeah, gender gets used as the differentiation word where sex gets used basically only as a verb. I've definitely been in communities where that was the case. Or certain generations of people. You can sex a skeleton, sex the puppies in a litter, or have sex, right? But yeah, gender is the non-scandalous, non-clinical version of the same thing. Yes, right. I must have been blind all my life. What are you talking about? And where are you getting 4 main types of genders? Just curious about that. What your thought is behind that one. Anyway, yeah, I feel like we as a society move fast, and the more internet based our culture gets, the faster things move for us. And oftentimes we forget to do sort of what I would consider aftercare, if I could borrow a term from certain types of sex communities, a certain amount of aftercare for those that we sort of leave in the dust, right? Like there are definitely people who felt that America had a certain like vibe and culture about it, and it's changed dramatically. And that's fine. I think it's actually really good. I think we're culturally in a place that's better than we've been in the past. But a lot of people don't feel that way. How do we make them feel better or like supported as we're changing things away from their standard? I don't think we do that enough. If I would say one huge trapping, one of the worst negative things I've noticed about Democrats in America, it's that they don't know how to take care of Republicans. Not that Republicans do this either, but the Republicans have, you know, a different, bigger problem. But I think one of the biggest problems I see in Democrats is they are progressive and they don't know what to do for people that don't like progress. They don't know how to care for and address the situation for those people feeling disenfranchised. When we moved to the place where I went to high school, my high school was 70% Korean American in population. I was in the minority group, and very shortly into being there, I learned something about a word that I didn't know before in my life, and that word was Oriental. Hanging out with my friends at school, I don't know how it came up, but somebody mentioned that they had been called Oriental by some old person. And they were like, that's wild. Like, I can't believe some people still use that word. And I was trying to play it off cool, like I knew what they were talking about, but I didn't. So I just kept my big damn mouth shut. And I learned in that exchange, at least in this community, you can tell me if it's different for the communities that you might have grown up in, or if it's a different set of rules now. But at that time, they were like, yeah, it's really hurtful to be called Oriental by her, because that's like the word used for nouns, like inanimate objects. You would call a rug Oriental, but you would never call a person Oriental. The person is Asian because they're from Asia, but the stuff, the items and artifacts might be considered Oriental. So it's like objectifying a person when you say that, referring to a person. And after I learned that, a few months later, I think, or maybe, I don't know, at some point later, I heard my mom refer to a person as Oriental. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't use that word anymore like that. Like, you might have used that when you were a kid, but I'm just telling you now, like, it's not in fashion. That's not a good look. So how could we change, you know? And so I tried to help my mom understand, like, hey, I'm pretty sure the preferred term now is to go with Asian or Asian American, right? Could you work on your language there? And to her credit, for her age at the time, she was like, oh yeah, you know, I just want to say whatever is like the the kindest thing to say. And so she worked on saying Asian, even though it wasn't what she grew up learning. But I've definitely heard other people who aren't as cool as my mom or as kind, struggle with what they would consider neologisms. Like, oh, that's funny because like I spent my whole life saying this word. Why should I change? Or, what's wrong with this word if it's the one I've always said and everybody else I ever knew when I was a kid, we all said it. Why change now? Some people get that way. And I feel like that's very much the way with sex and gender. You hear this same sort of confusion and argumentative style for the people that argue that there are only two genders. They argue there are only two genders because they're thinking of the word sex. They just haven't clued in that one particular sociologist caught on and created a whole movement, but a whole movement on people younger than that generation, I think, really got informed by. So they missed the train, and now they feel like they're having some sort of linguistic coercion being set upon them. Does anybody know about like Jordan Peterson and linguistic coercion? Hang on, let me catch up with chat and then I'll talk about Jordan Peterson for those of you that don't know who that is. I think what frustrates people is that they are told that gender and sex are different and immediately afterwards are told that they are exactly the same. I mean, yeah, again, talking about like different structures and different conditions in which the language has moved on and others in which it hasn't moved on. We don't call gender parties sex parties because there's already a term sex party, right? No, but I mean, we haven't changed a lot of terms, right? A lot of terms aren't caught up to that distinction. And the distinction is also generational. So you ask an older person and they will say gender and sex are the same. I do get a bit frustrated at people, usually under 30s, who decide they want to be a they them gender identity just because it's cool and trendy. I also know somebody who picked they them because she is a gender, well, I should say they if I'm being kind, a gender abolitionist. And I am too. I'm not a militant gender abolitionist. I'm an ideological gender abolitionist. I believe that gender is a useless construct that shouldn't exist for anyone but two people in a relationship with each other, whether that's friends, colleagues, roommates, or partners, or whatever it is. Closely linked people that need to know this kind of information about each other could share how they express or how they feel intrinsically within themselves, but that information is useless and I argue dangerous to get involved in as a point to anybody else for any other reason. Does my work need to know my gender? Not one shit. Not one little bit. I don't know why I said not one shit. That doesn't make any sense. But they shouldn't know even the tiniest little bit, right? They don't need to know anything about my orientation, my expression, my anything. They don't even need to know the color of my skin or hair or eyes or any of that kind of information. Unless I needed a skin graft because I got a bad burn at the office or whatever, in which case, okay, take a look at my skin. But otherwise, like, I don't want you knowing anything about me. I don't need the government needing to know anything of that. I especially don't want demographic studies to know anything about these, because what my skin and eye color and gender expression and sex tell you, you can't make predictions about other people knowing what you know about me. Especially me, I feel. I don't feel like I fit molds. Not to say that I'm special like everybody else, but like I've met thousands of people and haven't met somebody that is like me at my core, I guess. And so I further feel that using people as a metric to judge other people is pointless, and therefore gender itself as a term that you would ever use to explain anything about yourself is pointless. Two people using the same term, masculine, don't mean the same thing. And that's actually why I put masculine in my streams, is because when you get to know me, I I decide that I'm masculine, and you can decide whether or not you agree that the things that I do, because I identify as masculine, I decide that those are my defining characteristics for being masculine, and I don't need to fulfill any other trait. If somebody says being masculine is watching sports or hunting, I say, no, both of those things are boring and a waste of time. And so I reject those hypotheses. But I do find it troublesome to just adopt something like they, them for the sake of making a point. I think you want to be called they, them because that is exactly how you feel. It fulfills exactly what you want to hear when somebody refers to you. It fits perfectly, not just to make a statement. In my undergraduate gender studies class around 2005, we used sex to mean a specific biological profile and gender to mean a society's beliefs about what role and behavior the sexes should have. Yeah. And again, that's got to be impacted by that same sociology background, right? That sounds like that's all coming back to that one study that redefined gender to mean that, because colloquially with people of a certain generation, it doesn't mean that. Older people does not mean that. I understand it to mean that basically, but I'm not that old yet. However, the use of gender in some circles, particularly the Democratic Party, seems to be something quite different that I still do not understand. My farthest left understanding of the word gender is really just an explanation of a way in which you feel about your own identity and how the way you feel makes you inclined to present outwardly to other people and how you would like them to connect with you. Does that make sense? That's a lot of ands. But does that make sense? Yeah. It is because they dumb. Also, I've heard of the differential line between sex and gender. Yes, me too. Yeah, I think if more younger people took the time, maybe it's too late now, but back in the day, if more people had taken the time like I did with my mom, just be like, hey mom, this is kind of how Oriental is used these days. If you want to sound like you care, because she cared. She was a very caring person. If you want people to understand that you care, then here's how I think you might want to use it. Not that, oh, we're going to talk about Jordan Peterson. We will. Not that you should be coerced to speak in a way that is unnatural or doesn't serve you and the way you want to come off. But I think people ought to be told the way their words will be taken if they're not understanding of that. Like if my mom just said, well, I just like Oriental and I don't care how it makes anybody else feel, I would have dropped the topic right then. I would have been like, oh, okay. If you don't care, if you literally don't care how other people feel, then you choose however, whatever word you want to say, and you make people feel however uncomfortable you want to make them feel. You're going to get some stink faces, but hey, that's you. But my mom really cared. And so, she wanted to pick the word that would make people feel comfortable. And that makes more sense to me because language is really about exchanging thoughts into other people's heads. Now, if your thought is, I really want to make you uncomfortable, then you've got words you could use to do that. That's fine. But you got to know that that's where you're coming off, I'm tired. I will sleep. Endangerment. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining us. I super appreciate your input on tonight's chat. And I hope you sleep well. And catch you tomorrow. That name sounds familiar, but I can't place it. Feels like a politician or a celebrity, though. So Jordan Peterson, I would say he's reached celebrity. He's he got popular for talking about coercion of speech. But I think he makes a good point, and then he becomes a bad person later on down the line. But who he was originally was a professor of psychology. I believe I have this right. At a university up in Canada. I can't remember which. Ottawa is like ringing a bell, but I don't want to be wrong. He worked there at a time when people started to record lectures, and they started to record his lectures. And I will say, because I think a lot of people are prone to gather evidence and then decide whether somebody is a good person by the evidence they've gathered or a bad person by the evidence they've gathered. I'm here to tell you there are good people, there are bad people, and most of us are some like wild mix of everything in between, right? We're not like fully good and fully bad. We're just sort of a lot of different things. The case was with him, I think, very much this. So recording his lectures, if you look at any of his old lecture material online, he is very good at presenting his points. He explains himself clearly. He knows psychology well. He is a good professor for what he does. And there's a reason why people recorded his lectures. Ow, jerk. Oh my god, this guy's gonna actually kill me. Okay, good. That didn't happen. So then, the Canadian government, I hope I have this right, decided that they would pass a rule that if you work in public service, including at a university of the country, that if somebody were to insist on their pronouns, that you must use them. And he said, I think I would like to refuse this rule. I do not think this is a good rule. I think if I have a friend who insists their pronouns are such and such, I would be inclined to use them. And I think in the case of my school and the way I teach my lecture classes, I never refer to a student. So this doesn't refer to me specifically in the way that I teach. But I just don't like this rule. I feel like it's a way of coercion. Oh, hi. And in that regard, I agree with the man. That's about where we stop agreeing. So yeah, he was a pretty good professor, and I've seen some of his old lectures, and he's very engaging as an instructor. I do like the idea that if you work for a university, that you should get to say things the way you want to say them. And if somebody feels like they particularly dislike the way that you've engaged with them, you're not referring to them the way they want to be referred, then I don't think that you have an obligation to communicate with them in a polite way. I don't think that you need to meet them at a level in which you are friendly. Oh, this is way more effective than the staff, actually. Never mind, I'll just wand these guys. And I would also wish, but, you know, I'm not a politician, that making people feel comfortable or supported in a classroom is not compulsory on the professor. You can complain to the dean that your professor was being rude. I would say if a professor deliberately misgenders and deliberately attacks or otherwise makes somebody feel unsafe by their comments, that could be addressed on a one-on-one case by a dean to say, you know, you're not just getting this wrong out of apathy. You're being belligerent, and you're creating a uncomfortable space for somebody who's just trying to learn and be a better citizen in our country, and hopefully, elevate their status, elevate the status of the whole country. Maybe if they become a big contributor. In which case, take it on a one-on-one stats, but don't bring it as like policy or law for Canada. Now, Jordan Peterson went way off the deep end, because past that, or beyond that basic functionality of his career, he then proceeded to be like I think he went anti-vax. He went very far down the right rabbit hole. He became this huge supporter of Judeo-Christian values in light of moral decay, because the world is moving away from certain tradition centers in the way that we formulate our culture, and that there's going to be a big upset in the way we do that. He became like a real shithead. I think a lot of it was just chasing money and fame, because he never had strong positions that were public before. Or maybe he just outed himself and really became overt in what he's always believed all this time. But yeah, it was an interesting start. He started off explaining himself pretty well, and he did get a lot of flack for being perceived as anti-trans, even though he never said anything transphobic. And I agree with his stance on smaller government and less policy that would force somebody to act or behave in a certain way. But then he took it too far. Everett says, oh wait, where am I? Yeah. When did he become a bad person? My main interaction with him was about 10 years ago, when I tried to listen to him speak about theology. I never figured out what he was trying to say, so I mostly stopped paying attention, although I still generally hear about his conflict in Canada about pronouns. I think some of the big frustrations with him really stemmed in his sort of like rhetoric to go like counter media, he was like anti-media and anti-vax, I think, were the two big problematic stances that he had. And he didn't have good talking points. It'd be one thing if a big, smart person who really obviously knows a lot about psychology would step in and use his subject matter expertise to explain something about psychology very well. But where he gets it wrong, I think, is he uses his big fame, more recent fame, to encourage people to believe other things that he believes that are not tied to psychology. In other words, when he talks about what he's studied, he's getting it right most of the time. When he uses his fame to go other places, he makes big, unsubstantiated claims, and it makes him look pretty bad in the long run. I'm not saying he's a fully bad guy. He still has some good criticisms of just government in general. I think he makes points that other people wouldn't make. He's not afraid of being seen as more rightist while also criticizing the right, as an example. Whereas a lot of other people are very scared of what is the word? Biting the hand that feeds them. I think you can see a lot of shill work on both sides of the American political spectrum these days. If you go too far down the rabbit hole with anybody who has a strong political opinion online, there's a good chance that they're trying to check every box that they can so that they feel like they'll get the strongest continuous ad revenue or sub and follower engagement, right? And I don't know if this is the case per se, because I don't highly engage with these communities, but I've heard some complaints about people like Ben Shapiro as not having values or ideas of his own anymore. He used to be a big debater at college campuses and that sort of thing. And, uh-oh, crap. Oh, thank God. Get up there. And now he's just like a shill against old people, right? Basically, or not against, but like shilling old people's money. He stops what he's talking about through half of his conversations and tries to sell, converting all of your loose currency to gold because of the imminent collapse of the United States economy, that sort of thing. Or on the other side, you hear the same sort of talking points regularly from people like Hassan and Vosh, who have certain viewpoints that they have to continue to purport so that they keep their audience a certain way. They're conditioned a certain way by their audience and usually won't go outside of that wheelhouse. Even if they have a belief that's different, they're tied to a certain type of revenue stream. That's maybe one of the only things I fear personally if I successfully expand this out into a much larger business, is that concern that if I stay vulnerable and open about my stance and it is unpopular with the larger online community, will I have to censor myself, change what I say, blatantly lie about things that I believe in order to make sure that I keep my family fed? You know, because I'm not trying to endanger my family's well-being just because I have strong opinions that are disfavorable. It's kind of a hard thing to juggle. Like, I get why somebody might use very simple lenses through which to speak to their communities so that they don't endanger themselves. Although once you're making millions, maybe it doesn't care. Or maybe you don't care. I just want to throw away all the politicians and start over again. Well, a good number of them are going to die in our lifetime. At least we have that. The entire political industry is just gross and shouldn't be an industry. I fully agree. I wish there were more oversight for the government, but who would oversee the government except other government entities? It's kind of a catch-22, right? Yeah. Maybe as we get bigger ability to do big data, we can find some way to do like a Bitcoin blockchain. What's the word I'm looking for? What is blockchain exactly? It's like an oversight, right? Like crowdsourced oversight sort of thing is what blockchaining is. I wonder if there's a way that we could do that with the morals and values held by the politicians. Like, are they actually representing our interests or what? Oversee them as the public. Or we mob. Yes, he's something of a master debater. You're talking about Ben Shapiro? I'd say he's probably like among the kings of the debate bros. He's better adept at that than most people, which is partly what makes me so sad to see him like such a shill for that that old conservative money. But I suppose, you know, if he's helping old people part with their money, can I be too mad at him? I used to listen to Ben Shapiro's show before the Daily Wire went behind its own paywall. Back then, at least, he had some interesting things to say. I think even when I disagree with him, the things that he has to say are interesting. It's good to understand, you know, sometimes when somebody says something you disagree with, what the ideology that supports that is. What's their motivating factor? If you don't understand a motivator, then you're sure to get the conversation wrong, and you'll probably never be able to shake hands across, you know, a what's the word I'm looking for? When two concession, not concession. It's not when people come to concession. Two people reach across the table, shake hands. They both gave something up. Man, streamer brain's hard tonight. And I got to do a drive like very soon here, so I got to hop off pretty quick. But yeah, you'll never really understand the opposite side unless you take a moment to listen to their motivations. Compromise. Thank you. Yes, that was the word I was looking for. You'd never be able to reach across the table and compromise with somebody if you don't understand their motivations, if you just demonize them. And I feel like that more and more we're polarizing to the point where it's hard for us to do other than demonize the other side. It would probably all return to the state it's in now. I don't know. I mean, if we repopulated politics with younger people, I don't think that could be possible. It sure would be cool if you could choose which programs to fund with your tax dollars. That would be pretty outstanding. I think there would need to be maybe some compulsory division of tax monies, like you know, everybody has to provide for a certain level of medical support, elderly support, education support for the young. There's some things that are a greater good for an entire society they benefit from, and you don't really have much more to say beyond, you know, this is great. There are also other things that you probably can't make the decision of, because whether you feel a certain way, your decision not to fund would cause so much harm. Like if you said, well, I don't care much about fire. I think I've built a house that's very fire resistant, and I'm in an area where I won't catch on fire. If we don't have well-supported, funded fire emergency services, you're putting a lot of other people's lives at risk by saving yourself some tax money. But beyond some of those like basic functionalities of a city's or local municipality's government, I think it would be a fantastic idea to say, you know, let's have you allocate where you see fit. Here's your slider. Here's 100% of your discretionary tax fund. You appropriate this based on, you know, your urges. What do you want to see developed first? How do you want to prioritize where this goes? And then that happens with everybody. And if you don't enter in values, it just goes to a certain default value for each one. I think that'd be pretty nice. I could easily see a future where something like that's implemented. That would take very little framework to make happen. Yeah. And the polarizing is being hastened by the politicians themselves. Polarizing is a popular functionality. It's clickbaity. If you can say really, really large adverse things, they don't even have to be true. You can be fact checked later, and then that's fine. Just really big, outlandish things, you get the eyes on you. You get people listening to you. And crazy enough, because this is the age of communications, you'll get maybe some 10,000 people who are rabid that agree with you, that actually agree. You might have been memeing, and they're like, no. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we should do that. And you're like, okay, well, I was joking, and you're a little bit crazy. But hey, if you guys are going to vote for me, or you guys are going to throw your lobby money at me, then I'll keep saying a few more things like this just to see what happens. And you can always publish retractions later on. Almost nobody's ever going to catch them. So you could be as wrong as you want, come back later, fix it all in post so that you're not setting out any libel or slander that you haven't fixed up later. But, oh yeah, you know, I said this was wrong, and that I want to publish a formal statement saying this guy in fact does not fuck toasters, and I take it all back. But the big outlandish statement already took hold. It was already said, and it's already felt by your community, and now you're done. I mean, you've made the impact. You can come back and do everything right later. You've gotten your constituents behind you. All right. Now that I've said fucking toasters, we have to go. I have to leave early because I mentioned this at the very beginning of the stream, but some of you might not have caught me right at the very beginning. My sister's going out of town. She needs a ride to the airport. The flight leaves super early. I got to get to her. Then I got to get her to the airport in time to get her through TSA and all that sort of stuff. So I have to leave a little bit early and actually go driving right now, which is, it's almost 2 a.m., which is crazy to me, but I'm probably just not going to sleep tonight and just go right into work first thing in the morning. So I will catch you all on the flip side. I love your faces. If you're on Twitch, hang on. We'll go raid somebody. I'll probably just raid and run. YouTube, Kick. I will see you all tomorrow. We're going to be playing more Earthbound Mother 2, which I just love. I love this game. So I hope you're there with me because it's such a vibe and I'm having such a good time. And I really look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for a full stream. So please be there. And watch all my stuff on YouTube so I get watch hours. All right. Okay. Bye, YouTube and Kick.